Okay, folks, we're live. Let's call the meeting to order. November 27th, meeting of the Budget Committee. On the schedule for tonight is the deliberations on our presentation from the school. And before that, I think we need to get caught up on maybe some minutes because we're getting kind of behind on those. So is that doable for you guys? You all got them with you, or?
Yep.
I haven't had a chance to read them.
So do you want to put it off until Thursday?
I don't care. I mean, I can abstain, but either way.
I want you to make sure you get your input in, that's all. I mean,
Yeah, if we could do it to Thursday, that would be great. I just didn't know we were going to do it tonight.
okay, we'll plan on Thursday, first thing, doing the minutes.
Peter, do you know which minute, like what dates we're looking at?
Well, I think we still have the open from the last meeting in October's
I was
meeting.
gonna say, there's one from quite a while ago.
3 or 4 from November and 1 from October.
Yeah,
Okay,
there's 4 sets, Joanne says, so
okay.
we might as well just, let's get caught up on that stuff so we don't get all at once. Scott, did you have a chance to speak to Grassmere at all?
Yes, I did.
And?
I spoke to Bruce. Bruce said he's going to speak to the commissioners about it, because it's not his decision.
Right.
But the budget is done,
Okay.
and just waiting to get the official word from the commissioners to bring it before us.
Okay. All right, let's start in on the school budget then. I think we'll start right on page 1, and I don't think we have to go through each page. Maybe we just want to go through the summary. Any ideas how you want to handle it? Speak up. I did tell secretary excuse tonight was John, Richard Fletcher, and Ivan. We received responses from all of them, or requests from all of them, they wouldn't be here tonight. Anything, anybody want to start with anything, or questions? We do have some folks here from the school. If you could say your names for the record, that way we'll start with Ray.
Yeah, I'm Ray Labor, business administrator.
Jessica Miller, Deputy Assistant Principal at Maple Avenue.
David Bousquet, principal at Rockland Elementary.
Get that? Anybody got anything you want to start with? Guy? Go ahead, Elizabeth.
I don't know if I'm jumping around more than you want, so if you want me to wait, I
just-
can wait. But it's kind of a follow-up question, discussion about the new math teacher.
Okay.
It took me a little while to like process everything and kind of think through it all, but then a question came up in my mind that, I mean, I understand the math program that they're talking about, that they've already instituted and they want to keep going, and I think it sounds great. So one of the questions I asked was that if the kids take that, they're not taking an elective. So instead of creating a new position, shouldn't we just be shifting the positions we have? I mean, if 100 kids are taking this new math program, it means they're not taking something else because the number of kids is constant. So I guess that's my question.
Which would be
Discussion
directed
point.
to Diane.
Yeah, if I could, one thing you need to remember is we need highly qualified teachers to teach, so
Right.
depending on what the elective is that they're not taking, you can't necessarily transfer the
Right.
teacher over.
But wouldn't that be more, instead of creating a new position, maybe changing the personnel we have, or,
Letting somebody go.
and then hiring somebody else who's qualified to, so I'm not talking about reducing positions, I'm talking about just keeping, if the number of students are the same and they're taking different courses, it just seems to me like that's more of a shift in the personnel we already have.
What I can do is I
Hiring a new
can
person.
direct that specific question to the high school. What I think the answer is going to come out. What we've seen this year is there haven't been any classes to go empty. There are still electives. And as much as those 40, Kim said it was 40 for geometry and 40 for algebra, they're not cleaning out any one specific class. They're coming from a different variety of classes.
So this is actually an increase then in the offerings in our offering.
It is a pilot program this year, my understanding of it, and I will confirm it, my understanding is that yes, it is
Okay.
an increase.
But I
Because what
believe-
they're doing is they're giving it to these children or these students every
Right.
day, rather than what the typical schedule is in the high school, which is every other day.
Yeah, she said they were hoping to expand it though.
It's not
So-
sustainable as it is. We've got Kevin
Right.
teaching one, we're drawing a highly qualified teacher from another, was it physics? You know, what they're finding is it's just not gonna be sustainable over the long term, and they're just looking to hire somebody to fill that position.
Okay, well, can you, I don't know if you know the answer to this question, but the people who teach electives, are they people who are like normally English teachers and then they teach one elective? Or are they people who are hired specifically to teach electives?
You're going past me, I don't know.
Okay.
I would not know a 100% accurate answer for that question. I
Okay,
don't know. I can find out.
okay.
Diane, did you say a pilot program is going on this year?
That's what they're doing this year, that's what Kim had said, is that they were trying it out to see and they've gotten good results. So that's what they wanna be able to budget for next year.
Okay, you got $500,000 just in new positions,
Across the district.
but still, it's $500,000
No doubt there.
for the budget, you know.
And many of
No
those
doubt.
we don't have a choice on, if I understood
Right.
Stacy correctly. They are IEP required positions.
Which, if I might as well, one of the conversations that took place at the table is we're talking about $500,000 worth of new positions, and so many of them not being optional, really, because they are IEP driven, is the sense of directing so many resources where we have no choice at the expense of areas that perhaps we do have a choice, such as different academic programs. There are particular special education programs, obviously we can't, they are federally mandated, it has to happen. We do still have other educational needs in our district that you wanna make sure that we can provide for.
Okay.
Oh, that's the effort.
And two of those positions, I believe, are not actually costing the taxpayers anything of this town because they're offset by revenue from Dunbarton and New Boston.
Yes, they are
correct?
targeted for identified students from one from Dunbarton, one from New Boston.
Okay. 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 Yeah, I would just like to know a little bit more about the math then.
Yeah.
So if I can just clarify something, let's start with Bartlett, with the two paraeducators and the new special ed teacher. Are those positions that'll be mandatory?
Those are IEP driven, yes. They are identified students we know are coming from Glen Lake. We can't draw the staff from Glen Lake because those staff are used for people coming into Glen Lake. So it's either we service those children, because I asked about that when we were discussing it at our board. And it's either those children get serviced within our district or we send them out of district.
How many paraeducators do we have over at Bartlett right now?
I don't know, do you know, David?
I think we have 5 right now,
5 paras?
so.
He's looking at, I'm sorry, go ahead, Scott.
I think it would be helpful, just like we did with the town, and I think it's something that this budget committee should think about doing in the future, and that is people counts for buildings and for whether it be departments, because that is the largest expense that we have. And, certainly we know that we have a principal and assistant, we know that those certain things, and there's a lot more, people coming in and out at the schools due to special education needs, things. It's a little bit easier on the town side, but it would be helpful to look at those things and start looking at it in terms of like ratios, so that we can actually make informed decisions from year to year to year. Because I honestly don't know, like, that's a great question. How many paraeducators, do we have? How many did we have 3 years ago? How many students with IEPs did we have, last year? It's hard to make these decisions and I know that it is fluid, but the by the same token, even on the town side, how many sworn officers do we have? What's our population? What's the, ratio of population to sworn officers? Or, those things I think are helpful to us. It just makes it, very difficult, because you don't know where the staffing is. And sometimes, the thing that I saw with the school's presentation was that their population has either stayed flat or decreased, but yet, in some cases, you don't, if it's at the high school, you don't see, if you go down 50 students, you won't see any negligible decreases in staffing, simply because, you have to offer a certain amount of, you still have to offer ninth grade English, so if there's 20 kids versus 18 kids in that class, or 24, you still have to offer it, but it would be helpful to have that data. I don't even know if we have it, on the, on the school side.
I don't know, does the school side have that data?
As far as, we know how many personnel we employ.
No,
Which
I guess
I did request that.
Yeah.
I saw that, and I've passed it on.
But I don't know if Ray, is there any data that's kept on, like, how many people do we have employed at Bartlett today, and how many did we have, 3 years ago?
We could probably come up with that information.
You could? Is that way too difficult to get? And I don't want to send you on a wild goose chase. But the point that I'm trying to make to the committee is that,
What I'm thinking is that you guys might have that already. You've received these spreadsheets, personnel spreadsheets,
Right.
for the past 2 or 3 years now.
right,
They're all broken out by location, all broken out by labor type. I think you have the information. It's just a case of compiling it.
right, and I guess, again, I don't want to belabor this, but it is good to know that, let's just say, 5 years ago, Bartlett School had 220 students. It had a principal, it had a half-time special ed person, it had, 5 paraeducators and 18 teachers. And then now the proposal is to go to same thing, what does that look like from year to year to year, and then ask those questions. I don't know, I guess I'm into data-driven analysis, but I think that's helpful.
And that would be something that somebody that's been on this committee for the last few years may have. Guy, how long, would you have that information?
I can check.
I used to have it in reams at home, but then finally I just said, no, this stuff's gotta go, because it was all in paper.
Can
then.
I just make a comment on that, Scott? I understand your perspective on that, and it does seem to make sense to me. I guess what I would caution on is one of those components that you would need to know is the number of special education students you have.
Yeah, I know that. I'm good with that.
Okay. 'Cause
And I
the
think that
way
would-
you
and I
mentioned
think that would
that
be-
is what totally determines
Right,
how
but-
many special educators
But
you
it would be
have.
good to know that, and it would be good to know as they track out of Bartlett or track from Glen Lake into Bartlett School, how many kids, I heard the comment last week that, a lot of these kids don't leave the district. I mean, a lot of times if you're comfortable in a setting, you're not gonna move. But that's an important thing, how many are tracking in, tracking out, because wouldn't you wanna know that? I mean, if a family left and they had 3 or 4 special ed kids and they decided to move across country, and now there's, 2 of them had one-on-one aides, now they don't, I mean, I'd like to know that.
Right, but I mean, I think the superintendent said last week that those paras would be reabsorbed into the district if they were needed.
But I wouldn't, but
But you wanna see that somehow.
I'm just saying, I just think it makes decision-making, maybe not now, but it's gonna make decision-making in the future that much easier. And I'm not just saying this for the school, I think the town has to do this as well. It's like, how many cops do you have? How many firemen do you have? How many DPW
Right,
workers do you have?
But the difference with the cops and the DPW is that, I mean, these are kids that you don't know, I mean, you
Correct.
don't, right.
Right,
So, I
but-
mean, you know to some degree what's coming up from Glen Lake, what's coming up from Bartlett to middle school, but you don't know who's gonna move into town next week type thing.
I
I
understand
think it's
that.
great data to have, I don't think it's a apples to apples with comparing it to the town.
That's fair enough.
But there's also, when you start at the kindergarten or preschool age, as they move up, some of those kids drop out of special ed too. So you can't just say, you have 10 now and they're just continuing all the way through. There are some that are coded.
That would be interesting data, I mean, my gut feeling would argue the opposite, that more kids get picked up into special education as they go up than less drop off.
Do you know that?
More
I don't, that's my
identified.
gut feeling, and I could be absolutely wrong, but it would be interesting
Yeah.
data to have. I could be wrong, please
Well,
help
I can speak
educate
to
us.
the para piece. Generally, when a student is assigned a para, they have to have significant enough needs that the para is assigned. Generally, they don't drop paras as they get older. These are kids who have toileting issues, and yes, they may be toileted, but then they still have to, so we're talking pretty significant kids. But as students get older, we try to provide intervention for them in the earlier grades, unless they are significant. And then as they get older, third, fourth grade, we tend to look at them, that's when learning disabilities become more prevalent, as the material and the curriculum get harder. So I think we do start to code more children as they get older, but those kids who are significant stay coded, and they generally we try to wean them away from a para, but there are some kids that just doesn't happen. So I think you're right when you say you really can't compare apples to apples with a para, because they're assigned to specific students, depending on the need.
And what we have now with our staffing, with our paras, is every para we have is identified with a student. Like 5 years ago, you would have maybe had a para in the class that would have helped out in the class a little bit. There might have been some children with some special needs, but they weren't coded or specifically identified. We don't have that anymore. Over the last, I know over the last 3 years at least, that has trailed off, and it's gotten to where we don't have extra paras.
Well, I got Scott and then Brian, then you, Elizabeth. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I mean, I think our job is to, as a budget committee, is to put forth budgets for a school in town. I think it helps tell the story. I mean, I know for a fact that the school has done a nice job in terms of less out-of-district placements, and then that the end result may be more paras in our buildings. Mm-hmm. But that's the type of thing that when we're showing increases in paras, for me, I would love to know what happened 5 or 6 years ago, when we can say, we can make the argument, oh yeah, our out-of-district placements were $1.5 million hypothetically, and this is what we had for paras. Now we have an out-of-district placement budget that's far less because we brought in autism, or we brought in this and this, but overall it's been a net savings. I think that helps, I mean, tell the community what the heck is going on, because we may hear that in a budget presentation, but the average Joe, they don't know that.
Let's see what we do to get you that data.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Brian.
I'm just gonna point out that you guys keep talking about how they go down, but if you actually look at that special education section, where you guys have all the numbers, Glen Lake, 41 students, Bartlett, 39, 43 at Maple Ave, Mountain View, 143, and then GHS at 184. To me, that goes up, not down.
John, Brian?
So page 8 of
It's a different kind of disability. That when you have them at the younger age, I think, and Jessica can probably bear me out on this, I mean, you've got some kids who are identified immediately, and they're going to need help the whole way through because they have serious issues.
And some come out of it, right?
Well, but you've got a lot of kids who have more mild things that, you know, they come out of it when they're in 2nd or 3rd grade. I mean, they start.
Early intervention
and
makes a huge difference.
It makes a huge difference because they get to them early. But then around, 5th and 6th, or even in high school, you start seeing learning disabilities, which those kids won't need a para.
3rd and 4th, Elizabeth.
Okay, the 3rd, 4th. They won't need a para necessarily, but they're gonna need a lot of help academically, you know, getting through their studies. So, I mean, the thing is that it's a really fluid, changing population. And I think, I mean, it's great to have the data, but I think it's gonna be hard to track when you're just looking at numbers. Because the kinds of things, you know, all the kids with speech disabilities who need help when they're little are not gonna need help when they're in 4th or 5th grade, but you're gonna have this whole new population that has different issues that didn't show up when they were little. So it's gonna be hard to quantify that kind of stuff, I think.
Anybody else?
I just have one other comment. I mean, I don't know how much control we really have over our special ed budget. I mean, I know that Goffstown has a reputation as being an excellent district for special ed students. But I don't know how much control the school district has over those funds. I mean, there must be districts out there that have horrible reputations, and maybe they're just not using their funds well, or maybe it's for totally different reasons, but.
Well, we have a reputation as a great district in general. We're well known for our test scores and regular ed.
Right. But I know, like, you know, when my daughter was being seen by Easter Seals, everybody said, "You are so lucky you're in Goffstown." They said, "We tell people to move to Goffstown when their kids are diagnosed because we have a great reputation." But it's like, so we don't really have much control over that budget.
Not when it's federally mandated. I mean, if you've got an IEP, if you're identified, your rights are protected. There are things we have to,
I understand what you're both saying, the conversation is not going in, we've agreed that we've identified some students that may. What we need to do as the budget committee, and as the school board, and as the town has to look at, is what the taxpayer is gonna be able to afford. You don't want them to say no, because there's a 5% increase plus contracts, plus special articles, and everybody just says no. And you take that, when you have these kind of increases, and you have contracts coming up, and you have special articles coming up, that people are gonna say no if you're not careful. And I think that's what we need to look at, is what can we say to people that, yep, it's absolutely necessary, every single dime in the budget is necessary. And that's what we're trying to do right now. So I think we've just kicked that around, that the paraprofessionals are necessary, right? Let's move on to the next thing. We can beat it to death, but, let's move on to the next item.
Toby and Bartlett?
Well, that's just
started
what,
on page 1.
I just skipped to I thought we were doing something at Bartlett, so I skipped to Bartlett.
no, I think what I was looking at the new positions, this is where I went, on page
Okay.
10.
Stop skipping around, Pete.
That's where your major increase is $500,000 in new positions, and that's why I went there.
We have
Yeah.
a lot of paperwork.
I know. You're not looking at that, we
The
thought you were
page-
looking in the binder, but you're
Page
looking
10
at
of,
this.
of
Okay.
which report?
The PowerPoint.
The PowerPoint.
I get it now,
But
but
yeah,
I was looking
I've
at
got to
that.
be specific.
Yeah.
Well, that's where you see where the paras came up with.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
You wanna talk about world language a little more?
Sure.
So with this full-time, with making this position part-time to full-time, what kind of capacity are we increasing? Like how many more students are we going to be able to teach foreign language?
Yes, sir.
I didn't notate a count. I notated that the halftime is not working. And what they're looking to do is to lower the class sizes. We've got class sizes at 30. So if we're looking at taking it from a half day to a full day,
Well, it's like
You're
she's
looking
working
at-
too well.
you're looking at
Not that she's
two-
not working.
there's just an increased demand for it as the students are taking it. That we do have some classes over 30 for world language right now, and what they're looking to do is bring that down. I don't know how many, I'm not gonna make up a number for you.
Didn't Nicole say 70% right now are taking language?
That's what I wrote, 70% of students
70%
enroll.
of 7th and 8th graders, because there's nothing offered for 5th and 6th,
Right.
are currently taking language. Okay,
Get your question answered?
pretty much. This seemed like a sticking point with you last time, which is part of the reason I brought it up. I'm just,
Well, we want to make sure we get all the information. I had it on here that I was, currently, we had two, or, I'm not really sure, I can't read my notes, I wrote crappy there, but I had a minus 32,000 there for something, so I don't
That's
really.
the loss of
That's the loss
revenue
of
from.
Okay, that was,
From
that's
one
what,
above, yeah,
my line.
Maple,
to-
Maple Ave,
So I guess under,
because of Dunbar.
Yeah, that's right.
70% seems pretty high to me. Is there any indication that there is, I know that we have class sizes that are a little high, but is there any other indication that full-time is needed? That if we offer full-time, we're gonna fill those classes?
Here's what I got. Current world language enrollment with 2.5 teachers is 290 students. 51% of grade 8 students and 60% of grade 7 students are enrolled in a world language. They would like to see this number increase to 80%. French class section enrollments vary between 28 and 23, Spanish 27, The current half-staff, the person that they have on staff that they want to increase to is a native speaker, which is why it made this person very attractive, full-time hire. And that's what I have.
So is 80% the district's goal?
That didn't come from the board. I would say that would have been from the school. I'm not sure who set that goal.
Okay. Is there any, where does that number come from?
I don't know.
That's going from 2.5 to 3, is my note.
That's what I have too.
Go ahead, Scott.
Do we know what percentage of Mountain View students who take, let's say, French 1 and 2 or Spanish 1 and 2, then retake Spanish 2 once they get to the high school?
Retake?
So French 1 and 2 at the middle school equips you then to go on to French 2 at the high school.
Right.
So you're asking who has to repeat the first year because
How many do?
I'm trying to understand your
Yeah, well,
am
you
I
know what?
understanding your question
I
correctly?
only got 3 more months in this job, so I'll just be blunt. My kids went through it, and I thought that it was woefully weak. And anecdotally, I don't have hard data on it, but many of their friends, they just said, the program was not good, so they opted to take Spanish. This was, again, because they didn't feel prepared to take, Spanish 2 when they got to the high school. Then I heard that the kids who never took a foreign language but then took Spanish 1 in 9th grade were doing far better than the ones who went through the middle school and took 1 and 2. So I'm trying to not throw good money after bad. If it's a situation where you have a phenomenal teacher, that's great. But maybe if the program wasn't working, there's no sense in throwing, more money at it. And I think if we know how many kids are retaking it, then that might give us an indication. Is this more of a unsuccessful program, or is it something where we need to throw more resources at it? Anecdotally, I just heard the opposite, that it just wasn't that rigorous, and then when they come to the high school, it's a lot more rigorous.
I've heard similar.
Yeah.
And what I understand from talking about it more is it is different rigor in the middle school as it is in the high school. The students are younger. It is going to be a different curriculum. I don't have a number for you, Scott, as far as
Yeah.
how many.
The other.
Pete, I wouldn't even want to
Yeah,
take
can I get a
guess
follow-up on
that.
that?
Go ahead.
One of the reasons why the math program has been successful, in my opinion, is because they do a series of tests to get into Algebra 1 or advanced math in the middle school, and then I think we've seen a lot of really good success when now we're talking about more advanced classes at the high school. I think foreign language, maybe it's just a different approach where students have to, maybe there's some tests where are these kids ready to take a foreign language? So rather than, let's say, have a goal of 80%, I would say let's just have a goal of the kids who are interested, are they capable of learning another language, or are we just programming them into a language for the heck of it and kind of spinning our wheels here? Because I don't want to shut down kids' opportunities, but by the same token, we do test for kids to get into some of these math programs, and if the kids aren't ready for it, then maybe they're not ready for it.
This is a new subject, though. I mean, they haven't had language prior to 7th grade, right? Is that what you're saying, an assessment to get into the 7th grade class?
Correct.
In math, I mean, you've had math from kindergarten, right?
Right, but there are teacher recommendations, I do believe, to take a foreign language, if I'm not mistaken. I just don't know how rigorous they
It's
are.
not arbitrary. I
Oh,
mean,
one at a time, please.
sorry. I don't know who's going. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry,
I was just going to say, your expression of how it comes about, Scott, it's not arbitrary. They're not doing it just because. There is some thought and some intention behind how these things go. If you could just
Right.
be more careful with your word choice.
What
Well,
word
you
choice?
just kind of indicated that it was just, we're going to send this kid into because we just want this number. And that's not how it
Well, I
happens.
don't know, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I would love to see 80% of the kids in these foreign languages and be successful.
For sure.
But if that is not the case, then I'd rather see a reduced percentage of kids that are going to be successful, or they can take it at the high school. I just don't think, I'm just concerned, especially with foreign language at the middle school, as if it's a successful program. And are we just putting more resources at it? If we have the wrong people there, then that's another story, but that's one of the areas, and again, I'm trying to look at this from a big picture, and I'm not just looking at it from the school, I'm looking at it from my own side too, that I agree 100% what Peter said. I mean, there's so much that's out there between town and school. There's gonna have to be difficult choices here.
Right.
This is one of them.
Joe?
As I recall, Stacy told us that those language courses at the middle school are being taught at the high school level. Now, if what Scott is saying is accurate, then that was not an accurate statement. We heard from Stacy, right? You're
Well,
saying those are not.
that is an accurate statement. I mean,
Not high school level courses.
they're-
If they're,
what she said was that if you take foreign language in the 7th and 8th grade, you have met the criteria for entry-level Spanish 1 or French 1.
For one high school.
For one high school, right, at the high
Two
school.
middle school goes one.
okay,
Right,
that was.
2 middle school, so that was accurate
That
what
was
she
it.
said.
Yes, you're right. That's
Okay?
right.
The point that I was trying to make was that again, anecdotally, I don't have the hard data. I think the hard data will be how many kids repeat. But if we have somehow not met the expectations of taking foreign language in 7th and 8th grade so that it does meet the criteria for success at the high school level, then are we doing the right thing by throwing another body at it? That's all, the only point I'm making.
It is a
Elizabeth?
body we haven't.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I'll wait my turn.
Well, I mean, this is the first I've heard of this, and I think it's very interesting. I know, I happen to be reading the 2003 study of Mountain View, and apparently parents were clamoring for more language at that level. But if it's not effective, then I think we have to seriously look at it. And I don't know if it's not effective, I don't know if there's other programs. I know Bedford does their language very differently. Every 5th grader and 6th grader takes elementary French and Spanish, and then I think they test on to continue, as I understand it. That might be something that maintains standards. But that's something I would like to know, and I would like to know a little bit more about the 80% goal.
Go ahead, Diane. Did you have-
No, it was just that whole, it's an existing body, it's not, it's just taking the same body we have and taking it from half-time to full-time.
Right, okay, but
So-
it is adding hours, so.
That's
It
a
is adding
$40,000, that's a $37,000, I don't want to exaggerate, it's a $37,871 position,
No question.
okay? And Elizabeth, the position that you were talking about, was that the high school, the new math position, right?
Yes.
Okay.
What were you gonna say, Brian?
Well, Brian's had his hand up for
I
a
know
while.
Brian had his hand up for a while.
I'm
He's
sorry,
just
Brian, go
ignoring me.
ahead.
It's okay. Is the languages required at all?
Middle
No.
school?
Middle school, no.
High school, middle school?
If you wanna get into college, it's
was gonna
gonna
say
Well,
be.
I
for college,
understand,
don't
I
you?
understand that, but I just didn't know if it was any type of required course, that's all. That's all I was
part of the
asking.
graduation requirement.
Okay. So I was
But it
just
is,
curious.
you need 3
Fine.
years minimum to get into.
I just remember taking it and I thought I was forced to take it. I don't remember saying, yeah, let's go take French.
You thought you were forced to go to school.
You don't have a
You were
choice.
naive, Brian.
I just don't, I just don't remember enjoying it.
Anything else on those subjects? Okay. Anybody want to make any motions there? Do you want to do anything? Do you want to just move on? Speak up.
I need more information before I can make a motion on either of those.
More info, okay, let's be specific on what we're asking for, so we don't ask them 4 or 5 times. And Diane, you know exactly what we want?
I believe I do. Elizabeth is looking for more information on the 80%. Scott would like to know more about how many people either have to retake the first year of foreign language, or were you asking also for a dropout rate, or if
Or just choose to. I mean, I don't know if that data is available, but I've heard from my kids and their friends that a lot of them opt to take it again because they didn't feel they were prepared to go into, to take that class. And if that's the
To
case.
take two?
What?
To take the second?
Correct.
Okay.
And the only reason why I say that is, and again, I'm gonna give kudos where kudos is due. I mean, several years ago, the high school, they started the GAP program. So if you weren't successful during the day, we weren't wasting the seat during, you had to go at night. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, we want these kids to be successful in the 7th and 8th grade so that they do not take it over again, which then requires yet another body that, at the high school, or we're occupying
Paying twice
time.
for the same thing.
Correct. That's the only point I'm trying to make. And you can make that same argument if we don't have early interventions like we've been talking about when they're little, then all of a sudden we get to team 1 at the high school. That's resources that we have to do to try to make up for lost time elsewhere, so, and then you're never gonna avoid it, but you try to minimize it.
And on the math, I wanted to know about shifting existing.
I've got that down, yeah, thank you.
Okay, I'm on page 10 of this.
Yeah, I know you
Okay,
are.
let's go right up the top. I just want to check off some things, get some things out of the way, okay? First thing there was the retirement, which was a large budget increase of $453,000.
Yes.
Okay. There's nothing we can do about that.
Nope.
We agree?
Yep.
Health
Hey, I have one
insurance.
question. I'm sorry.
Go
one
right
question.
ahead, Elizabeth.
Is this the last of the downshifting from, because now they're paying zero, so does that mean we're not going to see such a big increase in retirement next year? Or is this something that's going to continue to increase year over year?
Okay, now the state is not contributing to teachers, firefighters, police. What you do not know is you don't know how the fund, the pension fund will do. So if the pension fund is not meeting their investment goals, they may then say, oh, we need to fund it more. Then they're gonna come back to the towns and the school districts and the teachers and the employees and say, okay, we need a greater contribution because we have more unfunded liabilities, okay? That question I don't know the answer to. But in terms of what the state's contribution is, no, it can't get any worse
They're already given
than
zero.
what it is now. But in terms of
So-
unfunded liabilities or goals, investment goals, that I can't speak to.
Okay.
Joe?
And this happened not just for teachers, but for all town employees?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the state used to do 35%, then went to 25, and now to 0.
Correct.
For all of the, okay.
Ray, you got anything to add to that, or?
I think Scott summed it up well.
Okay.
Is the great unknown.
If you got anything to chime in, feel free, okay?
Thank you.
That's why we asked to have you here. Okay, so we agreed with health insurance, nothing we can do with that at this time. That's a contractual, right?
Yep.
Okay. Sped tuition, what are you gonna do with that? Anything?
I think we can.
I don't think we can.
There we go, okay, the roof's gotta be fixed.
Well, the roof has to be fixed. I think, I did read the school board minutes, and there was a heated discussion about could they do half the roof at one time, and there was pros and cons to doing that. You know what I'm saying, doing it 100,000 in one year and then coming back and doing it the other. I think that where the school board seemed to land was that it might be more expensive because you have that whole issue of setup and,
Absolutely.
and, you know, everybody in the trades, that's usually 10-15% of your cost, is just getting your manpower there, getting all your equipment, et cetera. So
At least.
undoubtedly, that if you broke it into two pieces, that roof will probably cost you more than 200, so.
And it needs to be replaced, it's leaking, right?
I mean, it's 21, 22 years old, and I mean, I haven't gone up there, so I'm trust what they're saying.
We probably ought to make what we have stay good than let it fall apart.
Well, didn't Jerry Aggett say that they already had to spend thousands of dollars in
Just to patch it
in
up and stuff,
patches?
yeah.
Right,
Well, if
yeah.
you don't fix it now and you let it, what happens is the underlayment and
I
starts
guess
to
that's what I'm
go
saying,
on.
you're just
Yeah.
making things worse, so.
Yeah.
All right, so we decided we needed to spend the money on that. Okay, let's go to Goffstown textbooks for math. This is the high school. Diane, is that a brand-new program?
It's not a new program now. What they do, or what we try to do so we avoid having a lot of large expenses in any one given year, is we have the curriculum on a rotation cycle. It's a 5-year rotation cycle. We were supposed to do language, gosh, probably 2 years ago was language, and it got backed up enough, we gave up on that. This is the year for new math text, or no, last year was the year for new math text. This is the second year they did not make the budget last year. Where we're operating on default, we cut those.
You mean English, when you say language, not foreign language?
Yeah, no, I'm not talking foreign language, I'm
Right.
talking English
Language
language
arts.
arts.
Language arts,
Yes,
yeah, right,
forgive
right.
me. But no, this is math, and this is our second year doing math.
So, language arts got bought when?
They did not get bought. They were requested, if I'm off a year, because we asked for math last year, we're asking for it this year, then it would be English language arts was backed up for 3 years, so we're
You
going
used an
back
ARA
on-
grant, you used a grant for the reading streets, that was
Yes,
on
that
part
was
of it, but
grant.
then I think the rest was
But we're
deferred.
talking at the high school, this is
Right.
at the high school. This isn't gonna this isn't capturing everyday math in the elementary level.
This is just high school.
This is high school level, And is it 7 and 8 too?
This was high school only.
This is high school only.
And what's the age of those math books now?
Anybody's, I mean, it's gonna vary. Some of them are pretty old.
And the replacement cycle is 5 years. We've missed 2, so they're 7 to 8 years old. And I think this particular buy was timely in the sense that it's going to align with the Common Core standards, which are going to be introduced in 2014.
I'm sorry, that last bit, this is to get everybody in line for the Common Core?
At the high school level, yeah.
Is it possible that there might be another shift once Common Core gets out and gets
Common
used?
Core is out. I look Common Core up, if I'm
Are
wrong,
they
correct
using
me.
it?
No, we're
They're
being
shifting
tested on
toward
it
it.
in 2014 is we're gonna be tested. So theoretically, it's out because you're gonna be held accountable for the information on that test as of 2014, so you need to be teaching it now. So
We're
like the
not
effort.
teaching it.
Yeah, you are. I
Oh.
mean, you've seen your everyday math.
Yeah.
That's your Common Core. We did that last year.
Okay.
Down in the elementary, I know 6th grade, 5th grade, I know on down, those are all the Common Core texts. We renewed those. We got new math
Okay,
books.
but in the high school then?
That
I'm
has not
confused.
happened.
Okay, so they're not being taught the stuff for
Well,
Common
that was part
Core.
of the math, not to beat the math teacher into the ground as well. But that was part of it, is that these students are being held accountable as of 2014 for algebra that they are at this time week on. So no, right now, we don't have the text that we need to, I'm not saying we're not teaching the material, because
But we don't have the text that they should be using to prepare for the Common Core.
there would be better text, yes.
And this is 2014 is gonna be the first testing of the Common Core.
Yes.
I'm just wondering if, after they do that first testing, if they're not gonna come back and say, oh gee, this worked and this didn't, and let's shift this, and then we have to buy new textbooks again.
That's education though, right?
I mean, that's anybody's guess. I can't possibly make guarantees for the
Right.
federal government, because this is a national
Right,
national test.
okay.
Brian?
Is this information, as opposed to textbooks, is it available in online?
They all have online components.
Is there a way to maybe supplement what we have now with online supplements?
Any more than what we're doing?
Was there a cost difference in that, do you think, maybe?
Sure, there would be a cost difference, but I'm not sure how we would be able to do it any more than what we are. Most of our texts now have an online component. I mean, you've seen it coming home, and the
Yeah.
question is the accessibility and how it's being implemented at home and being used. We are not anywhere near in the condition currently in our schools to have a laptop or an iPad for every student to be providing that kind of technology. We don't have smart boards in every room. So an online component for classroom use, I can't see that being, we're not even anywhere near there yet.
Yeah.
But as far as being home, that's gonna depend largely, and as it is now, our books largely have online components.
Guy, do you have a question?
Actually, Elizabeth asked it, so I'm all set.
So how different is it? I mean, I'm not a math person, frankly, and so, math is math to me. How different can
And
it be?
honestly, I don't live and breathe the Common Core. Jessica or David, do you have insight into that? I mean, what I know is that it is a different test. We're being held accountable for different material. You're absolutely right, math is math, but, excuse me. But, I mean, do you know how different the Common Core math curriculum is? Have you been prepared for that yet?
I'm not sure if it's a lot different, but I think for every level, it's more in-depth for each skill. So I think it's more, maybe less skills at each level, but more in-depth at those skills that they do learn.
Okay. Okay.
And to answer your question, the Common Core is developed, the standards are out, so they've been released, they're online, so I'm not sure that there's going to be changes after. Our Reading Street and our Everyday Math programs have already come out with their versions that have been aligned, so I don't think that those will change. I mean, I can't say for sure, but they're out.
I think the thing that will change probably is the assessment for it
Yep.
to fit the Common Core standards.
Okay, so the
Not
test
the
is gonna
standard.
change, but that's not gonna affect necessarily
The
the
standards
materials we
itself, no.
use to teach it. Okay,
Scott?
okay.
No, I just personally think this is probably one area where we have to make a cut. Or defer it, because, I mean, there's just hundreds of thousands of dollars that we cannot touch. And this is one area where One, I think we've gotten very good value. You know, our math scores are really strong. I would hope that they would continue to be strong. You know, with the right teachers in place, I think that they can supplement where they need to, where any holes might be in a textbook. And I think this one is a no-brainer for me. This is one where we have to make a cut because there's so many other things that we can't.
I would agree. I mean, math is, like Elizabeth said, math is math.
You know, I mean, I'm just, if this has to get deferred, it has to get deferred. I mean, it's, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Somebody wanna make a motion then?
I'll make it. I'll make that we, cut the GHX math textbooks, 98,324.
Need a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Guy. Any other discussion? Any, Guy, did you wanna put any input on it?
Nope. That's it.
I guess, I see your point, and I guess if we cut this though, I think I'm gonna be more inclined to support the math teacher, even though I'm really hesitant to add any personnel at all. But, because I just worry, Peter's looking at me like I'm nuts, but.
Oh, I'm not that you're nuts, you confuse me by what you're saying, that's all.
Well, this is the kind of thing, I mean, this is the kind of thing that I think people want to see an investment in. This is a real academic investment in our students. It's not some, fancy highfalutin building or something like that. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that I think we owe it to our kids to invest in. So I like this new math program that they're doing, and if we feel we need to cut the math textbooks, I think we are asking our math teachers to invest extra time in filling those gaps on their own. When they would have had a book that would have helped them do that. So we're gonna be asking more of them, and I think it makes me more inclined to support the additional math teacher, that's why.
But our course and math course, I don't want to speak.
That actually makes sense to me.
Our math course now, we're doing very well on it. We tested very well on it, right? That's with our current teachers and our current books. Okay, are we gonna go backwards by not doing that? I'm asking on test scores, with your opinion.
It's a different test. The material might be presented in different ways, and even though, I mean, math is math, although, I gotta tell you, I'm appalled that anybody would consider me an authority on math at all, knowing that I'm not a math person, but.
All right, so we're realizing you're not an authority.
But the thing is that, I mean, I know about taking tests, and the way that the material is presented can throw students off very easily, and maybe I'll call on Joe to back me up here a little bit, but, I mean, I think that they're gonna have to fill these gaps. They're gonna have to go out and use the online resources and kind of build their own lesson plan when the lesson plan might have been presented to them right there in the book. And I think you have to make sure that the way the material is presented does not throw them for a loop and does not end up messing up our test scores.
I've got Lisa, Scott, and then Guy.
Oh, that's my invitation to speak, thank you. I guess I would contend that math is not math. If anyone in this room has seen a 5th grade math book or a 4th grade math book or a 3rd grade or even 2nd grade, even kindergarten, I mean, it's still addition, subtraction, it's still all the same functions, but the way it's delivered is different now. If I had taken these math classes when I was younger, I probably would have got math a lot easier. It's presented in a different way. Before I would vote for yes on this motion, I'd want a little more information about these textbooks and the things that you just described, Elizabeth. I mean, are these textbooks upgraded and so aligned with the Common Core that it is going to make assessment easier for the kids? And math is different now. I mean, it's the same, but it's presented in a much different way. So I would just throw that out there for food for thought.
Scott?
Well, since we have the whiteboard, I'm gonna use it. I'm hoping I'll get Ray's help.
Ray's help.
This should stay up here, because we're talking a $1 million bump on the town side, 70 some odd cents on the tax rate, okay? Just wherever that's worth. Then on the school side, what's it, was 1 point something million more? 1.4, which is $1 a little bit more, $1.05 probably. 1.4 million.
1.425.
Okay. And I'm using approximate on this here, $1.05,
Oh,
okay?
no, I'm sorry, 1.4, it's 1.5, it's
Okay.
1,409.
So, I'm just trying to frame this, and again, I'm framing it against my own interest as well, but this is the reality here. We have not talked about DPW contract,
How much?
teacher
No side
contract,
conversations, because it carries on to the tape, okay?
teacher's contract, support contract, building project. Okay, so, I mean, I can only speak from past, but these contracts sometimes are $300,000-$400,000 for teachers. $200,000 for support. I don't know what these things are gonna come out to be. You know, this one, I can tell you flat out, it's gonna be about 30 some odd thousand dollars, give or take, first year. Okay, and that's the 30 DPW folks. So I don't know how many teachers we have or support level, but it is what it is, and I don't know what the numbers are for the building project. So, you know, are we saying that we're okay going $1.75?
Wait, Scott, I think the 142 for
One
the
point,
school
should be,
side,
should be 1.49.
but that doesn't address the loss of 1.6 million in revenue, right? Isn't there 1.6 million less
That'd be
in
on top of
revenue?
it.
Oh.
So that would be a higher number.
Oh, so it's
$2.
even higher. Okay, so, you know, you're proving my point here. So, you know, we're looking at,
So textbooks
you know,
are-
$3 in the tax rate here.
That's before special articles and contracts.
So I'm just trying to frame it. I mean, I know everything is important. I agree with it, okay? And there are some things that the Board of Selectmen did, I don't agree with it, but it is what it is. But Peter framed it appropriately, I thought, is that what are the people willing to accept and what is defensible? And
What are they able to?
what are they able, right, I'm just saying, it's like, you gotta pick and choose your battles, you know?
So should we not, I mean, don't we still have to discuss we still have to talk about textbooks, I mean, we can't just not.
Oh, no, I don't
I'm
think
not
that's
saying,
saying
I'm
that.
not saying that, I'm just saying, I thought,
Good point.
you know, I thought Peter, you know, did a good job in saying, we go through the health insurance. You can't, you know, neither the school district or the Board of Selectmen could do a damn thing about retirement. The only thing that we can do is to say, we're gonna cut positions to afford it, or health insurance. No one has said anything about that. So now we're talking about increasing positions, and we're talking about other things that potentially can be deferred. There's a lot of things that the town needs or wants, whether it be the school or the town, but if you look at that, we cannot do it. You know, and I'll be honest with you, if my choice is to buy textbooks or give a teacher a contract, I'm giving a teacher a contract every day of the week before I'm buying math textbooks. And I guarantee you that 95% of them are gonna tell you the same thing.
Yeah,
We'll
because
make do.
otherwise, you're implying that the teachers, you know, it makes it easier for them to develop their own lesson plans. Yeah, are you implying they wouldn't do it?
I'm just saying, I'm just a firm believer, the most important thing is having a really good teacher in front of the kids. That's the bottom line. So, and having clean schools and well-maintained schools preserve our investment. So, you know, I wanna be able to sign off on these contracts, provided that they're ready, and knowing that in order to do that, there are some difficult choices that we have to make, and this, I think, is one of those difficult choices. It is what it is. And I think the same thing, you're gonna be asking me, I'm gonna be in Diane's shoes come Thursday, and I'm gonna have to, I'll have to take it like a man and just say, okay, I mean, but it is what it is.
So there is a motion on the floor. It was made by Scott to cut $98,324,000 from GHS textbooks, math, seconded by Guy. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your hands. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Opposed? 1, 2, 3. Abstaining? None. Okay, we've discussed the new positions. We're going to wait on that until we get some information back. Okay, charter schools, anything we can do about that, Diane?
Downshifted from the state.
there's that.
If we could do something, we would.
Yeah, I'm sure you would. Repairs and maintenance, not including the roof. I kind of agree with Scott on, you gotta take care of the plant. I wasn't sure, I don't have Jerry's. Anybody remember what Jerry wanted for the $123,000? It was some partial.
You had a whole slew of
Yeah.
things that were in there.
Yeah, so part of it was parking lot improvements or sealing or,
It was somewhere in here.
pardon me?
The wet dry bags?
Yeah, the wet dry vacs.
Major malfunction with all of them.
Two, I think it was two of the remote control, not remote control, but battery operated
buffers.
scrubbers,
Yeah.
buffers, scrubbers.
But it,
Go ahead, Brian.
in repairs and that wasn't under repairs and maintenance?
What's that?
Hit the floor scrubbers and all that stuff?
Yeah.
That's what it
I
was?
think I think that was part of it.
Or is that under equipment?
That's what I'm trying to figure out, if we're talking about like doing stuff with the building itself, or I think we might be not on the right
Yeah,
track
without
there.
going through each school.
I know.
Ray, do you remember
What line?
what he had in there?
Oh, it's under each school.
It is under each school.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, so I'm-
It is spread out.
Bartlett was the asbestos tiles,
Right,
replace doors with fire-rated doors. Maple was purchase of a sump pump.
And the sump, I thought
Oh,
was
that's
Glen
Glen
Lake.
Lake, sorry, that was Glen Lake.
Yeah.
Repairs to building, bathroom
There was
upgrades.
there was doors.
Yeah, Maple's looking for windows.
I got it right here, yeah. Locker painting, replacement of library and office countertops.
I know the locker painting got cut. That's not in there anymore, Pete.
Okay, so that's what was reduced. He was, on the Mountain View Middle School, was building repairs to include new roof, which is different, exterior doors, window shade replacement, door shades for emergency management.
But what's underneath this is reduced by administration and school
Right.
board. That's all stuff that was asked for, but that was
Right.
cut.
So,
So just, you said locker painting, I wanted to make sure that you knew that that's not included, because we're not asking to do it.
What's the deal with the asbestos tiles? What's the situation? I mean, do we have like crumbling asbestos tiles? Or
We're gonna need to
is it
do
just they're old
abatement.
and we need to,
If we pull them out, we need to do to handle them.
You
I mean, the
can't,
question is, are they broken?
well, I'm assuming they are, because you can't go over an asbestos tile unless it's okay, it's intact, then you can encapsulate it, but if it's cracked or you have to take it out.
Right, because that's releasing asbestos.
Right,
in the
well, I'm
air.
just saying, that's just the protocol on,
He said
On
they're
the
coming
tile.
up from the floor
Right.
now, so.
Okay, yeah,
why they
that's your
do-
school, right, David? They're coming up,
Yeah, they're cracking and we'll put some, I don't know, some plaster kind of thing to fill in the cracks and
Okay.
stuff like that, but they're
okay.
coming up and cracking in some of the classrooms on the first floor,
And this is not part of the building project, just
not
to
the
be
first
clear.
floor.
Right.
David, could I swing by there tomorrow?
Sure.
About 9 o'clock or so?
Sure.
All right, I'll be there.
I
Okay.
think the big issue there is that, can they be overlaid or do they have to be ripped up? I mean,
No,
that's a
ripped up.
big difference in price. Peter, I had a question.
Go ahead, Scott.
If you look at the sheet that was provided last time, it was this one here, and it broke down SAU services. I thought that I heard that there were certain costs that were in the SAU that were gonna be going to some of the schools, or that's not accurate?
That was from the district that was shifted. Is that what you're talking about?
No, I thought I heard something from SAU as well.
Which one are you looking at?
There was something, I remember.
What does it say across the top of the page?
Well, it says, the default budget calculation,
On school board
yeah,
budget version,
Yeah.
10/24/12.
Yeah, that
Ray,
one.
Ray can answer that question.
Yeah.
Is there something being shifted from the SAU into the district?
The two psychologists that were employed at the SAU they're now being shifted. One is, one is going to the New Boston School District, and the other one is going to the Goffstown School District.
Right.
So there's a net reduction in cost from the SAU, and each of the three districts will benefit from that. But schools will be, or the school district will be picking up the cost for at least one of those individuals in Goffstown. And New Boston and Dunbarton will share the second one.
I got that. So I guess when I look at that sheet, it shows, you know, the $1.123 million in the 2012, 2013 year, and then the budget's the same in the is that correct? Or, because I'm looking to see a decrease, because we've had, I'm assuming a speech person with benefits, it's gotta be at least $90,000 to $100,000. Usually those are like $70-something thousand salaries, those jobs. Am I off?
Your question again?
My question, Ray, was, in looking at that default calculation, it talks about the current year that we're in right now.
Right.
For SAU services, which you have as $1,123,584, and then you look for what the adjustment is. So the next year's SAU budget is $1,123,584, the same amount. I was thinking that there would be a decrease because you are losing, you're not funding a school psychologist in that budget.
There is a decrease, Scott, and this version of the default budget it needs an update.
Okay.
That you're looking at.
And that's good, and that's fine. Now,
So
is that,
1123 number, I think, is around $1,097,000.
okay, and is that reflected in this?
It is.
Okay.
That's only a difference of 25,000.
Well, because I'm sure that you have increases in retirement and health insurance at the SAU level, which is now absorbing a lot of that savings that you might have ordinarily had.
Those positions, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, just to give you a feel for that, the assessment for 2012-13, Scott's number of 1123,584. That number now is 1,075,102.
Okay. Thanks, Ray.
That position, is that a special ed position? So in a default budget, how would that get incorporated into a default budget then?
What you're talking about in the default calculation is the assessment from the SAU, not positions per se. The SAU has a charge which it passes on to the 3 school districts. It's contractual in nature, Peter.
I understand that, but if it's a position that's not in the Goffstown School District's budget, and it's in the SAU's budget, how does that carry over to the Goffstown District's default budget?
There's an eye chart on the back sheet, or back side of the sheet that Scott was referring to. And it delineates all of the positions which are default level calculations for Goffstown, and those which are new positions and would not be included in the default budget. I think if we go down here,
17.
so I think it's position number 13. It's a new position, Mountain View halftime school psychologist.
Yeah.
And the same thing, 17.
Right. Those are positions that are not in the default budget because they're new. New to the district, let's put it that way.
And it's safe to say, Diane, that 15 and 16 were already cut by the school on that sheet. They were already cut, according to,
Yes,
okay.
those are done, yep.
Ray, are those the only two that are new to the district?
No, actually, Guy, there are 17 new positions.
Okay, those are all district then?
Right.
Okay, all right.
As Diana just pointed out, though, of those 17, 2 of
Right.
them have already been eliminated.
And if I'm not mistaken, number 6, the sped secretariat and VMS was eliminated as well.
Okay, so 6, 15, and 16 are eliminated. 17 and 13 were coming from the SAU budget, but so we were technically paying for that already. So that's kind of a wash almost.
What was the reasoning for that again, Ray? I'm sorry.
Oh, why they moved it
district-
from the SAU to the, back to the,
Right.
It's where they, you ready?
I'm sorry.
He asked what the reasoning was behind moving it from the SAU budget over to the district budget. And I was just about to answer that it was really because that's where they belonged. And they had been in the SAU budget previously, but the consideration was that they really belonged for accounting purposes with the districts that they served and in the schools that they served.
Dan, would you know, I'm sorry, Peter, is that all right?
Go right ahead, Scott.
Um,
I'm just got my head buried in the paper.
And David, you might know this. Positions 2 and 3, these are the paras that are needed at Bartlett for the students moving from Glen Lake. Do they have like a para now?
Yes.
And, okay, so they're moving up to the Bartlett school, so then the expectation is that there's gonna be kids at Glen Lake coming in next year that are gonna need those para services, is that?
Yes, it
Okay.
would be nice to be able to move the paras from
With the
Glen
student.
Lake over to Bartlett, but those paras are still needed at Glen Lake. They're still going to
Right,
be
now,
needed.
and they typically, the para doesn't necessarily follow the student unless in some cases it happens. I know that, I've seen that,
Sometimes it
but
happens, but usually.
usually they stay with the school. Okay.
Yeah, no, my spirit in that comment was really just for staffing purposes,
Right,
to be able to
gotcha.
maintain and keep them level.
So you've identified 2 other students that are coming into,
It is predictable that we will have 2 other students
you've
that
identified 2.
I personally have not identified.
As
yet.
Leslie indicated during her presentation that she has identified 2. They're coming out of the Child Find program.
And then the next question would be, are there comparable 2 high school students who are graduating or leaving the district because they've aged out that are no longer, that can then be reabsorbed? I'm just trying to look at this as a continuum. So that as they come in we identify them at Glen Lake, and now they've got a para kind of attached for their whole experience of education. At the end, when they turn 21, then we don't provide that services. I'm thinking that it would be,
I understand
they'd
exactly.
shuffle back. I'm just, do we know that?
I think what we'd like to do is get you the data that you had asked for previously. I think what you're going to see as our special ed program grows, because we've brought the programs in-house, that we are in a bit of a growth trend. If we could not add personnel, we would like to not add personnel. This budget is not lost on any of us. And the 500,000 in personnel and staffing, that's not lost on any of us. That wasn't taken lightly at the board. So certainly, none of this is being taken lightly, and if we could be more creative with staffing, we would do so. But again, as I said, I'll get that data for you so
Okay.
you can identify that specifically.
Brian?
I was just pointing out that they're showing added hours already for a para at Glen Lake, so obviously there's somebody else coming in
That
there.
has been identified.
Yeah,
yes.
so that's what I
That's
guess I
clearly
was
been
just,
identified.
yeah.
They know, like, at least a year before Easter Seals tells them when their kids are still at Easter Seals that they're coming, so,
And we pick them up at 3.
yeah.
On their, like, on their third birthday. It's
Yeah, the
not
day after
even
their third
anywhere,
birthday, they go-
it's
they
not the
start
school
going.
year. If you turn 3 in January,
You go the next day.
you go.
I have a question about the facility secretary.
Do you have a question? I'm sorry, okay. I thought,
They explained why Jerry needs that person in the
Yeah.
summer, cause that's when he does all his work, but is it possible then to decrease the hours during the school year? I mean, again, could this be a shift instead of an addition?
it's something I thought of as well, you know, if that is a busy time, but as it is, this individual is busy during the times that they have.
Okay.
Well, go ahead, Guy.
I'm curious to know, Diane, maybe you can answer this, or Ray, what would happen if none of these new positions were funded? What would happen?
None of the new positions.
Let's say
are funded.
we maintain the status quo. And there's what, I know there was 17, we've eliminated 2 or 3.
If there were special education positions, Guy, and they were not funded,
Mm-hmm.
money would have to be funded in the school district budget to cover it.
Right, but I mean, what would happen to the education of our kids? Can we do without them? Or do we suddenly need 15, 16 new positions? Or, I mean, I know they're not all educational. You know, some are secretarial, some are custodial, but I'm just wondering what would happen. Would the Goffstown School District still be able to educate our kids?
It's a question best posed to the school board and
Yeah.
perhaps to the superintendent.
I mean, it's something, as I'm thinking about your question, would the children of Goffstown still be able to be educated? Sure. We have educators on staff, and they're going to educate our children. Will it be as well? Will it be the experience you want them to have? That's
Nobody knows.
very difficult to quantify.
Mhm.
I can guarantee you that the needs that are identified by law will have to be met. So the funding for that will come from somewhere else. And whether it's, I mean, I couldn't even begin to guess where we would find the funds, Guy. That would be something that would have to go back to the board, but
Which of these
We-
positions are legally required?
any of the SPED, let's see. Because I asked,
I mean, that'd be good to know.
all right, so we've got the 2 paras. We have the SPED teacher at Bartlett.
Okay.
We've got autistic students coming up.
You said the 2 paras at Bartlett?
They are identified, yes.
Okay, and we've got the sped teacher
Yep, at Bartlett, identified.
at, you mean at Maple Ave?
No, that, the SPED teacher at Maple Ave, we are trying to do without.
That's not
We-
required by law, but.
We
you-
denied that request. Well, didn't deny that request, we did not approve the request to move them to full-time
So the sped teacher
at Maple.
is,
We are asking them to stay at halftime and make it
okay.
work.
So,
So which,
line item 11's crossed out, basically, that is what you're telling us?
I'm looking on a different sheet. What,
No, I
Well,
think,
can't we go to this sheet again with the new
yeah,
positions on
and
it?
we said line 11. Yeah, line 11 is
Yeah.
crossed out, yeah.
yeah,
But what,
That's
15 and
the
16
11's
too, though, I thought you said?
Yep, 15 and,
Oh, okay, all right.
all right, so not 6,
Yep, 6 is out,
okay. So,
because that's a secretarial position. 11, 15 and 16.
Okay. I
okay,
was
so
missing those.
you were telling me about the ones that were required by law, that were
Yeah.
the paras at Bartlett.
Yep.
And what was the third one you said?
I have a SPED teacher
Where?
at Bartlett,
I think you
new
listed
special
as new
education
autism.
teacher.
Is that?
Why do I not see that here?
I think
Yeah,
it says
you're
new
seeing autism,
autism.
Guy?
Oh,
line
oh,
10.
okay, gotcha.
Bartlett, yeah, 10,
Okay.
number 10.
Trying to grab all my notes
if you look
too.
at the
And
same thing on
the new sped teachers that are being covered by New Boston and Dunbarton aren't in this list.
Those are down.
They're right below it
Yeah,
on your
those,
spreadsheet.
yeah, you're
18 and
looking-
19.
Wait, I'm looking at this. I'm
Yeah,
looking
down
at
the
this.
bottom, your fingers
Yeah.
are on them.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Okay, so we've got 3 that are required by law, right?
Yeah. I mean, the world
I got
language
4.
teacher is not required by law, the math teacher is not required.
I get 4 that are required by law, 2, 3, 5, and 10.
The Glen Lake para?
The paras identified,
Yeah?
and 10.
Okay, so that one too.
2, 3,
there was also
5,
a-
and 10 are
A
required
new
by law.
special educator, is that considered the autism?
The one at Bartlett? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a new special
Yeah.
educator, so that'd be the autism.
Identified for
Okay,
autism, yeah,
alright.
we've got autistic
It's just, it
students
had it
coming up.
two
Two different names.
in different
Just to
spots.
throw you.
So those
Hold on,
four,
guys, let's have one conversation at a time, please. We had somebody complain that we were talking over each other last time. So
Okay.
please, let's just have one conversation at a time. Guy, go ahead.
just as an FYI, those four required positions total 169,535.
With an addendum, that, 13 and 17 are shifting. If you want to maintain the status quo, 13 and 17 are shifting between budgets. They're not new positions technically.
Then that would come to 249,991 if you add those.
So you could cut that increase almost by half. The area agreement takes effect when? Is this budget, the
The next one,
13, 14, or is that 14,
14,
15?
14, 15.
Go ahead, Scott.
This is to David. I'm just looking at your budget under special education. And above that, I looked at regular instruction, and from the 2012 budget, you're actually showing a decrease.
Scott, can you
In
tell
terms
us
of-
where you look,
Oh,
I'm
I'm
sorry,
sorry,
to interrupt you.
page, oh boy, they're not numbered.
Like in the first section?
It's the
that's
first,
not
first
numbered?
section, it's the overview section. Hold on, let me go to the,
They're hand numbered.
no, these aren't. It says page 11, I guess, top right-hand corner.
Boy, that's a tough one. Finding those like that.
It's,
What's the code?
let's see, Fund 10, Location 101 Bartlett, Function 1200, which is special ed, and then it's teacher salaries 111.
Okay. It is page 11. Yeah.
Yeah, but we're not,
Well,
I'm on the wrong
It's-
function.
we're on this, we're using the budget.
Function 1100.
books,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm here.
and they're
Oh, you're going, I
handwritten
see
on
where
there.
you, okay, yeah, jump down, okay.
So, I'm just trying to understand this part of it. In 2012, we had 44,000 and change for that line. 2013, 59,000 and change, about 60,000, okay? Your request now is for 193,000, almost 194,000. All right? Of that, your new position accounts for, that's a new autism teacher, correct?
Yes.
Which is, I'm just rounding up, $82,000.
With all benefits.
That includes all the benefits, yeah. And that's kind of why I'm a little bit confused, because when I look at just the wage for that one, David, the wage for that one is 48,780.
Oh, yeah.
And if I was to add that 48,780 to the, say 60,000, you know, I'm at 108,000, and this is at 193.
Would that include the salaries for the two paras too in the next?
No, because then, when you do that next one, the two paras below that, it's paraprofessional salaries.
What about the reading teacher?
I don't know if a reading teacher would be considered special education.
Hold on.
I don't, I'm just,
Ray's looking it up. Give Ray a chance. Go ahead, Guy, in the meantime.
I'm just
I'm gonna show
interested why the taxes and benefits are so high. I mean, the wage is 48,000, the taxes and benefits are 33?
are you asking, Guy, for the teacher, the autism teacher?
Mm-hmm.
Just wanna make sure we're talking the same language, because they take an estimation, when they try to plan for the benefits, they plan for
Out years?
family plan.
Oh, the.
Family health
Right,
insurance.
because,
Right,
I
okay.
mean, if they take that, you have to
Gotcha.
provide it, so it's an effort to try to plan accordingly.
So that's kind of a guesstimate then? Probably based on some pretty accurate information though, I would.
It's a guesstimate, because if you hire somebody who doesn't need that, then they won't.
Right.
You know, it all depends
Okay.
on who the individual is. It's also an estimate based on their step, like as far as if they bachelor's step or master's step. They just try to
Okay,
run an average to be safe, but not overshoot too.
okay, thanks Diane, that answers the question.
So basically, Ray said that in that line that I was inquiring about, it now comprises 4 positions, which includes the new position. So there must have been some reclassifications that were done. So maybe somebody came,
Well, there's a reduction at the top. That's regular, in the teacher salaries, there's a reduction there, right?
Correct. but I can't tell, is that because somebody, 2 people retired, I don't know. So you're saying that maybe they were regular ed and then they were reclassified
I don't know,
to
that's
special
what, I
ed?
think
don't-
that's the question we're asking.
Yeah.
I do know they had somebody that got retired. Diane, you understand the question, right?
I do understand the question. I'd love to be shooting an answer out right now, but
Well,
I know.
And again, I'm not trying to be a jerk about this, but when you look at, what the wage is, you throw the benefits on, for that new autism teacher with benefits, it's an $82,000. So this is the same exact thing, we'll be having the same conversation about a police officer. We're gonna have the same conversations. I mean, each position, because of the compensation and the benefits, it's sizable.
It's still less expensive than an out-of-district.
No, I know that. I'm not debating whether it's needed or not needed. I'm just saying that we have to really look very carefully at each and every single position, whether it be police officer, firefighter, teacher, because each and every one of those is a $75,000, $80,000 job. Cost, I should
still
say.
working on that, Ray?
I'm gonna have to get you the answer. I can't, with the material I have, I can't give you the correct answer.
And you did get that request, or did it get to you about the?
We did, and our HR department is working on it.
Which request was that?
The same request we put in for the town on
Oh, for the-
salaries, I asked the same thing for the school.
Okay. And just so you know, Peter, I mean, I saw, one of the members sent an email asking about why don't we get specific, healthcare, and there is HIPAA regulations.
Well, I think I
Right,
responded
which
with
you
that
did, but I
too.
just, for the public's record, but if there are any questions that you have in terms of what is the cost of an individual plan, or what's the cafeteria rate that we pay, I can give you all those. I could probably even break it down by department when there's not a huge department, but I can't, in some cases, we'll only have one person doing the job, I can't do it.
You can't do it. I had a response, Ivan was asking about that after I sent everything out. He had concern about, it appeared to be about 40% benefits. And, unfortunately, that's contractual, and my feelings are the time to discuss that is when you go to discuss the contracts, whether you approve or don't approve. That's was more or less my response. There's nothing you can do about it now. There's a shift, which also hurts. So, go ahead, Scott.
Gary Drellman's not here, but, this new district tech position, again, I thought he made a very good presentation of why it's necessary, why we have, a very high ratio of computers to technicians, et cetera, but again, looking at the numbers, we don't have it now. I just don't know if that's one thing that we could not do.
If I can just share the argument is that we are understaffed. They are struggling to try to keep up with the demand for tech support within the district. We feel he's done a very good job staffing with the interns that he's had from the tech We've brought a few of those on as new hires. They've worked out very well. They are, at present, not appropriately staffed.
Ruth, did you, I thought you had your hand up.
Would, this is
Go ahead.
just
No, go
food
ahead.
for thought here. Recognizing that, and recognizing that if we put this position into the budget, we're going to be buying a plan. Is that the type of job where we can buy some contracted hours, pay more, pay these students, not even interns, but pay them X amount per hour, they can put it on their resume, give them $10 an hour, no benefits, they can work 15, 20 hours a week while they're going to school, and we get what we need, we get the support, but yet we're not paying for the benefits. I'm just trying to be, I'm willing to be creative here. Can we throw $10,000, $15,000 at it as opposed to, in terms of contracted services, as opposed to a new tech position at 45?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's always
Could
good
you
to
ask?
look at different options. I'm happy to ask.
Because I think that's one
No,
job
we're
where,
trying to look at different options as creatively as possible.
that's one job where I think you could kind of, I'm not saying piecemeal it, but you could contracted service, you can contract services for that. Especially if you've got students who are doing it on an intern basis, you can actually pay them, and you might be a win-win.
Well, just to let you know where I stand, Scott, I know we've been hashing this over. I had 173,701 as a recommended cut in those positions, but I'm gonna wait until we get and the positions I was looking at was the 37,871 increase in world language, 82,248 new full-time math, and then the 45,000. Those are the three things that I had targeted on my list. And we've asked for some information, and I'm kind of going along that basis, which is a total of 173,701. When we get our information.
Again, the three areas, world language.
The world, that I was looking at, the increase in the world language was 37,871. And the new full-time math position at 82,248, and then the new tech position at 45,606. I came up with 173,701. And we've asked for information, I think, on all three of those positions, so.
Okay.
Anything else, Scott? Go ahead.
Yeah, might as well. I heard this whole thing about MVMS custodian and Bartlett custodian and all these others, and I don't know, I'm gonna sound like some other people that I used to make fun of when I was new on the budget committee, because they would talk about the old days, but I talk to the custodians in the schools, and when I've been in the classrooms right after school is done, whether it be elementary school all the way up to high school, and some faculty members are very good about saying, okay, I want chairs on top of the desk, or I want this place clean before anybody leaves the room, etc. I can tell you flat out that if students did a little bit of cleaning up after themselves at the end of the day, the custodians would not spend all this time putting desks, chairs on top of desks and moving things around. They'd be able to clean and get in there more effectively. And 20 little hands putting chairs up, might take 5 seconds to do, but, and again, high school, same thing. I mean, if you're gonna clean a room, okay, everybody put all the desks and chairs to one side of the room, and I just don't, if we're trying to preserve sports and all these extracurriculars, and all we're asking is for the students to help and pitch in, I think that is a very small price to pay, and we can save, $10,000, $15,000 in this custodial time. Because I've seen these guys and gals work, and they spend a lot of time moving chairs around, putting chairs up, and then some of the rooms are just, the teachers, they're not asking the students to take accountability. I'm just saying, little things do add up. Because that's what I had on my list.
I think a lot of kids do already do that. I mean, maybe not everywhere, but I mean, my experience has been when I've been in those schools, that the kids are doing that already. So I mean, I would like to know a little bit more about what exactly they need this increase for. If these custodians are doing more substantial maintenance that is maybe helping us not run into costly repairs, then this might be money well spent. So could you find out a little bit more about?
Well, I know Bartlett, it's summertime. David, can you speak to anything else for the increase at Bartlett?
Cost is more just increasing the part-time person to work over the summer because they just work the calendar year now, the part-time person. So we just have one custodian over the summer, this would be somebody else to help them during the summer.
To get the job done.
So what kind of things would they be doing in the summer?
They clear out every classroom, they strip the floors, they wax the floors, they paint the walls, they paint some of the furniture, bookshelves.
Don't we have students to do that too, though? Don't we hire summer help to do some of these, I mean, not stripping floors, but moving furniture?
We've hired prisoners before at the SAU.
Right.
They painted.
I assume you're not talking about students enrolled
Yeah,
in the school.
Excuse me?
You're not talking about Bartlett, hiring Bartlett students.
No, high school students get hired over the summer.
Okay. What about at Maple? Are they looking, is that an
No,
increase?
it's
not an increase
Mountain, no, it's not an increase at Maple, it's at Mountain View. And, what the experience has been as programs have grown, and it's not just our programs, Parks and Rec, you've been in there on a Saturday in the winter, and there's more basketball going on than you can shake a stick at. And, yeah, there's a lot of cleanup, there's a lot of dirt getting pulled in, there's bottles, and it's a lot of cleanup, and they don't feel that they are able to keep up with the demand as is presently staffed, and they have asked to be able to increase that, so they can better handle that.
How many janitorial staff do we have at Bartlett?
We have one full-time and one part-time, and the part-time just works during the school year.
During the school year.
So are those tasks that we would be contracting out for, or if the part-time doesn't go to year-round, what happens?
Our full-time gets as much done as he can in the year, but he doesn't get.
I think so.
So we're really only adding a half a person there at Bartlett?
It just says add days to custodian.
I don't even think it's a
I
half,
don't
I
think
don't
it's a
even think
person,
it's a
it's
full
just like
half
add it out.
person.
Summer.
It's $2,800 at Bartlett, roughly.
I was under the impression that summertime, it's all hands on deck, it's a schedule of what gets done, summer kids are hired, and is that not accurate, that Jerry doesn't do that? Or is it really done on an individual, school-by-school basis? I thought that, I have seen kids in these schools moving furniture and doing things.
Yeah, Scott, that's part of a special education program in the summer for some of the kids, and again, budget constraints are really reducing our ability to bring
Okay.
those kids on and employ them in that type of a program.
Where does that money come from, Ray?
Budget you're looking at right now.
Yeah, but what lines would that be? What would it be considered? Outside labor? If you brought somebody from, like, the school, how do you pay those kids?
Probably be in one of the 300 lines, which would be outside support.
Anything else? Okay, we didn't get down to transportation. There's nothing we're gonna do about that, right?
I'm sorry, I have one more thing on repairs and maintenance.
Go right ahead.
And in my mind, there's a these list of things that need to be done, there's a kind of division. The asbestos tiles, I think, need to be very seriously looked at, and I would like to have a breakout of what exactly it's going to cost to fix those in particular from these repair and maintenance lines. The other things, I'm sure they all need to be done. I'm not so convinced that they need to be done right now. But I wanna see about those asbestos tiles, how much it's gonna cost at each of the schools they're talking about replacing. So Diane, can you just
Just wrote it down.
Diane doesn't seem too happy, she's been writing a lot of stuff down.
No, it's good. I just wanna make sure I get it right, and at the same token, as I'm writing, I'm trying to see where she is and look and see what I can contribute, to the conversation as we go.
Go ahead, Guy.
You guys must have, Diane, you guys must have estimates already
Yeah.
for the asbestos removal? Okay, it should be easy then. That's good.
And Peter, you're gonna go look at it, right?
I mean, this isn't the first time they've done asbestos either. We've got a pretty decent history
Yeah.
of doing asbestos abatement.
It's been a problem with that school for a long time.
It's an older
Maple
school,
too.
and it just,
Yeah,
it
I
is.
mean, this has been ongoing since my first stint years ago.
How long ago was that?
Long time ago.
We're doing it in
Years
pieces.
and years.
Many moons.
Well,
Doing it
it's
in
not just
pieces.
Bartlett, I believe, there's other schools, there were more than, it's more than one school that
Yes.
has the asbestos.
The high school has asbestos as well. I know, Maple is having an issue, like their windows are part of it. There are some windows, they're the wooden sills, and they are just rotten, and you can't open them. Which could be considered a nice to have, but
There's no air conditioning in that building.
there
either,
is
so
no
it
air
could be-
conditioning, it's the windows. So, and granted, you only have to get through June 20th, but you gotta get through June 20th.
Yeah.
And try
Brian?
to learn
I'm
something.
sorry, go ahead. Brian?
Those repairs, including the asbestos, be rolled into the renovations that are set on a separate article if they were to pass?
Anything you see here is separate from
It
the
would be
renovation.
separate, it'd be
Yeah, we
in
wouldn't
addition
wanna,
to those renovations?
we didn't wanna ask for anything that was gonna be a duplicate with
Okay.
the renovations. This is not a section that is part of the renovations.
Yeah, I
Would
think
you-
the maintenance projects that you see now are going to be in the buildings or portions of the buildings that won't be affected by the renovation or reconstruction.
And if you wrap it in, you also take the chance if it doesn't pass, then you don't have
Got
anything. So. Scott?
Page 224. We had this discussion when Stacy was here. This had to do with the vocational tuition. And, I'm just looking at, current budget is, prior year's budget was 85,000, went up to 183.5. And then we heard that no one is going to Alvern. We talked about the transportation to Alvern, that, and again, this is one of these things, is there any room in this line where, in 2000, the prior year was 85, current year is 183.5. Do we know what our year-to-date expense on this is? Where are we, do we know where we're expended? Is this a line where we can potentially
Find some
save
room.
some money?
The tuition charges,
Yeah,
we get billed from Manchester.
School of
and
Technology,
From
right,
Malvern.
right.
And we'll see bills from them probably in the January, February timeframe, and again in June at the end of the year.
Okay, but
A bit on a semester basis.
But we have a pretty good idea, because we're sending these kids to MST. I mean, how many students are going to MST right now? And then we can multiply that out times the 1835.
Right.
And we kind of know.
So I think what we're saying here is that we're budgeted at 100 students.
That's what it would appear to be.
And that's
Yeah.
the ceiling, I think, is what the board is looking at.
Yes.
Okay, is that,
Realistic.
yeah, I'm just,
How
I'm
many,
just,
how many are going?
How many we have right now?
I'm just saying, I want to fund a lot of these things. But if this is one area where we can say we're going to fund 50,
Yeah.
and
How
that's,
many,
historically, we've only sent 50.
Who doesn't go though?
how many do we have?
I don't know, how many do we have now?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
Yeah.
throw out
I mean, if we
number that I'm not
only have
solid
50
on.
going right now, then maybe we budget for 60. You know?
We budget for 50.
Or if we budget for 50, you know what I'm saying? I
So
mean,
you're not suggesting cutting the availability of, if we have 100 students going, you're not suggesting, well, 50
no,
of you
but
can
I'm just,
go.
what I'm saying is that
Okay.
the prior year was 85,000. It's budgeted at 100 students, and where do we pull that number out? I mean,
Right.
so now, where is it now? I mean, if it's 50, then let's budget for 50 or 60. If it's 100, then it's 100. I mean,
Go ahead, Ray.
The 85,000 assumed or did include support from the state. Recall during Stacy's presentation that there is no more state support for vocational tuition or transportation. explains the cost growth.
Okay,
I would still like to know how many we've
yeah,
got.
how many
though.
are going?
That's a
Just
legitimate
out of
question.
curiosity.
Yeah.
Where is that transportation line for vocational transportation?
2723 is the function number.
He's like the
Wow,
Rain
can you
Man.
hold
He-
that up?
He's like the Rain Man, you know?
Right.
That's, what's his name, Ray too, right?
If you're in GHS, where are you, Elizabeth?
I've got it, 511, and it's, the amount budgeted is,
183.5?
no, 47,000 for student transportation, vocational transportation, 2723.
What page is that?
I don't know if I can.
269.
Now, how many buses is that?
Um,
Is that a bus to Alvern and a bus to MST?
It says 2 buses in the afternoon, 1 bus in the morning. Is that what you're asking?
Are they both to MST?
There were 2 buses to
no.
Alvern, one was cut.
So we're still funding a bus to Alvern even though there's nobody going to Alvern? Is that correct?
We don't have anybody go, so we're not paying for one, right?
This is next year.
Yeah, I mean, we're not paying for one currently because we don't have anybody going.
Right, but
But
we
that
have one
program
budgeted.
is available. Yes, we are budgeting in the event that somebody wants to go. Do you remember the conversation that if it was part of somebody's IEP and it was and it was only available at Alvern? Alvern has, there's a difference between Alvern's program and MST's. Alvern has, it's a large engine program, a veterinary tech program, and one other program that escapes me right now that is not offered at MST. So there is a reason that there would be 2 programs
But they do
offered.
overlap a great deal. I mean, they
There
have
are
many
others
similar
that have similar,
programs.
but that's why you would go to Alvern over.
But I guess I'm just wondering, I mean, the circumstances that would have to happen here are that you'd have to have a student who is opting for vocational training instead of traditional education. And that student would have to be a special ed student. And that student would have to need transportation, where I know a lot of these kids provide their own transportation, even though we offer it. All that would have to fall in place for that bus to kick in.
For us to have to,
Right, for you to have to.
but
do that
not for the bus to kick in. I mean, if we have it at present, if we budget for it, and if there is a student who would like to take vocational classes in Alvern, then the transportation is available.
Who's a special ed student? If it's a
No,
regular
it's for
ed
anybody.
student.
You can be
No,
regular
if it's
and
a
go.
regular ed student though, they can be told, I'm sorry,
Oh,
you're
they
gonna have to
could
find
be
something
told,
else.
right, but the question is, are we going to? And that's, if we budget for it, we would not tell them, too bad. Are we
I
speaking
guess
the
my
same, we have the
question-
same
We are, but I
conversation?
mean, I guess my question is, we tell students at the high school that they can't take an elective because only 3 people signed up for it.
Mhm.
Or they can't take some program because there's not the critical mass. So now we're gonna tell this other student, I'm talking a regular ed student, that, oh, you wanna take this? Okay, we're gonna shell out $24,000 for one student to take one program.
I really don't think we would do that. Why would we spend $20,000
You're just
for one
telling me
student?
that.
For the bus?
She's saying if it was special ed, I thought that's what she said.
Yeah,
that-
well,
That you
I-
might be required to.
Slow down, one at a time. I understand what Elizabeth's saying, because I thought the same thing, that if it's a regular ed student that wants to go to Alvern, we're gonna supply that person with the transportation, is that correct?
What I was trying to say is if we have it budgeted, I was thinking that what Elizabeth was trying to say was for the Alvern program to kick in, they would have to be special ed and we would have to. And I'm trying to say, no, Alvern is not dependent on special ed,
Right.
on the special ed.
But right now, I'm just talking about
So-
the transportation costs to get to Alvern.
Right.
So I guess my point is that it seems unlikely that all of those situations, you're gonna get a special ed student who wants to study something that can only be offered at Alvern. I just think that's an unlikely scenario. I don't think it's impossible, I just think it's unlikely. And in light of that, and given these numbers, maybe this is something that we want to reduce that number.
Okay, I've got Guy.
I seem to recall a conversation last year that I had with Mr. Pankos during one of our meetings regarding this. And if I'm not mistaken, he, after an inordinate amount of time, happened to agree, or finally agreed, that, number one, this thing to Alvern was not required, and that we had 2 students at the time that had chosen to go, I think the courses were animal husbandry is what they were taking out there, remember that?
Yeah, I now remember it.
And finally, you know, Mr. Panko said, well, no, we're not required to offer these courses, but we are sending 2 kids. And with the cost of the course and and I guess the point I'm trying to make is, this is not required. And we have no idea how many, we're spending this kind of money for, last year, 2 kids, for a course that the district is not required to offer. That's my point.
Diane, go ahead.
I'm pretty sure we cut that, but I wanna fact check it, just a little, because I know that we had this conversation. And, it was coming up on, that was last year, it was coming up on last spring, and it was because we had 2 students, or a very low number of students. And, they ended up going to MST.
Correct. So nobody was going to Elmer. That's this year.
Yeah, so we in fact did not spend a very large amount of money transporting 2 students to a program.
Right, no, I'm not suggesting we did, but it was in the budget last year, and I remember questioning it.
So I'm trying to get your head around.
So I guess my question then is, this number in function 2723 for $47,844, student transportation for vocational, does that include a bus to Auburn?
Yeah, 23,922.
It does.
See, I don't have the paper copy, so
Sorry.
mine doesn't say that.
What page is that, Brian?
269.
Oh, it's up here, top, okay.
I'm just saying, when you're making difficult choices, I mean, that's one that you make, I think, because if it's only 2 students and it's not required, then it is what it is. I mean,
I move that we reduce that line by
23,922.
23,922. No?
The correct number is 11,961.
What am I
School
reading
board
then?
cut
Oh, is there
11,961 already.
Okay, yep.
One of the buses.
I see it right there, yep.
Okay, thank
So
you.
he's
Sorry, I
cutting
read
the
that
other,
wrong.
he's cutting the other bus is what it is. It was
Oh, okay,
originally
I see.
budgeted for 2 buses at 23,922.
Okay,
The
yep.
school board cut it, but to 1 bus, and, which was a reduction of 11,961. And we wanna cut the second trip at 11,961. Is that correct, Ray?
So that preserves the buses to MST.
It does.
All right.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion on it? Diane, do you wanna speak to it anymore?
I'm good.
you're doing a good job, Diane.
Just to let you know, in the
Are we
past,
talking
it was,
about- Yep.
sometimes it
I
gets so
do.
rough, we had, some people would, actually, school board reps started crying one time.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, yeah, it was.
Here?
yeah. Oh, yeah, oh, yeah, they're in the
Well, let's not get crazy.
No,
Start throwing tomatoes.
Don't start crying.
Fisticuffs.
Well, I was threatened anyway. So the motion on the board, the motion on the floor is to cut 11,961 out of line, holy smokes. General, high school, 10-305-2723-17, is that right? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Seeing none.
Been there before. I'll be there again on
You will
Thursday.
You will be back.
Yeah, Elizabeth brings up a good point. We definitely limit, classes. I mean, we can have everybody wanting to take a certain class at the high school, but because we don't have the faculty for that, we can only limit it, In this particular case with MST, I mean, when we say that we've budgeted at 100, I mean, is that something that we can say, you know what? We can only budget 50, 75, 80. I don't know what the number is, but like, this is the number, and this is all this is all we can send. I mean, because the reality of it is that if a student wants to take a certain elective, let's say an art class, let's say it's a sculpture, welding, whatever, with Rocco Caradona, it's a great class, but there's only a certain amount of students that can be in it, you ain't getting in. That's just the way it goes. So if we're telling those kids that, you know, hey, great, but the schedule doesn't permit it, we can't offer another section, then why wouldn't we do the same thing, especially when the costs are so high? Now, granted, I understand, and the other thing that I would also say is, you know, with the GAP program, we have alternatives now that we didn't have, say, 20 years ago. I mean, the GAP is something that is one of those options. So is there anything that, you know, maybe we can, you know, take a look at historical enrollments and try to put some parameters on this thing?
Ray's got some feedback. Go ahead, Ray.
And just another thought, though, to consider. The MST program is also open to New Boston and Dunbarton students. The board here is considering an action. The same approach would have to be considered by school boards from those two towns.
Good point.
Their expectation is that their children, if they want to go, would be allowed to go. It's part of the current tuition rate.
So it's included in it.
I believe, though, that doesn't the area agreement say that they have to have equal access to programs?
That's correct, Scott.
Meaning that if we were to limit it to 50 students, as long as we're equally, it's
It's a lotto.
It's a discussion that
Yeah.
you wouldn't.
right, I mean, you're not gonna
But
say
the school
only
board
Goffstown kids are gonna go to it.
The school board would need to have that discussion with their counterparts.
Right.
Elizabeth?
The only caution I would make on that is that I know that a lot of times that the kids who opt to go to MST are ones who are not interested in more traditional education, and you wouldn't want those kids not stuck at the high school, but left at the high school and possibly causing problems there because they're not interested and that isn't where they want to be. I mean, it might be cheaper in the long run to let them go to MST rather than try and keep them in the high school and have to give them all sorts of help and have them be a disruption and everything else.
I'm a big supporter of MST. I just like to know, first and foremost, what's the historical enrollments?
Yeah, I'd like to know that too.
And I'm pretty sure as we're chewing this around that we are looking at about 100.
Okay,
Because there was a method to the madness as far as the budgeting.
okay.
But we'll get those solid numbers, but I'm pretty sure that's what we're looking at. And it does, I mean, you're absolutely right, it captures a different type of student, and it
Right.
provides, and they've actually revamped their program significantly.
No,
I
it's
don't
an
know if you guys have
excellent
noticed
program
in
over there.
the news, they've changed a lot.
Guy?
I was just gonna say, we gotta watch where we're treading into policy-making territory here. You know, I agree with what Scott said and Elizabeth said, you know, and it'd be, to me, you have X amount of spots, and if you get more kids than the spots you have, then, you know, you do some kind of a lottery or a drawing to see who gets it.
Right,
But
we don't have the
that's
authority
not,
to do that.
that's not something that,
Yeah,
You know,
that's
Yeah, that's a good
not-
point.
That's not our privy, but the dollars are,
but the dollars are.
okay, so,
So
We
here's
wanna-
the dollars, and you make your policy accordingly.
well,
Whatever.
kinda, sorta, but, you know, they could always go to another line and take it from there, they could do whatever they want. My point,
Yeah.
but I think getting the historic numbers is what we really need to know. If there's only been 50 people, why are we budgeting 100, or, you know,
Right. If there's been 100, then
if it's 100, then it's 100.
But just, this might be a dumb question, but this 85,000, was this actually what was paid last year, or is this just what was requested in the budget? I mean, this was a number that was spent,
What-
right?
What probably happened, as Ray said, that the
No, it
state
wasn't.
probably
This was budget.
supported,
we're in the middle
And-
of the year.
yeah,
That's
the
true.
state probably, as I guess
Yeah.
Stacy, the state supported MST, or did some sort of contribution to the tuition.
Reimbursement, right.
Yeah, and now that's not the case anymore.
Okay.
But we didn't downshift any.
No.
Quick question.
That
for
never
Ray.
happened.
Go ahead, Guy.
I have a quick question for Ray. This spreadsheet here, thank you very much for putting together. These are budgeted numbers and not actuals, aren't they?
Should be a combination of both, Guy, budget and actual.
I don't see where the actuals are labeled. In fact,
I wonder,
all I see is, you know, 07, 08, 08, 09, 09, 10.
yeah, does it say
Do you want
actuals?
which money? No, I don't see any actuals, you can
No.
look at mine, right?
Actual costs through 2011-12,
Oh,
and these are the budgets.
So what is it?
So you can look at
Uh-uh.
the 1300 function, if we can find that here, and that'll give you exactly what we spent last year for
okay.
for
You see that guy,
vocational.
if you look.
What column?
If you look above, you know the
Look
header
at
that
line-
doesn't move?
Oh,
Line
right.
There's an
seven.
arrow that says actual costs, and it goes through year 2011, 2012.
Yeah. Yeah, but what is that
Actual
pointing to?
Well, for those years,
Saying actual cost for those
Those are
years.
the
Oh, I
actual
see,
costs.
I see,
And
right up
then-
to 2012.
yeah, and then after that is budgeted costs.
Okay.
So
Thank
what
you, Ray.
was it- So Elizabeth, for that line, what was the actual cost?
Oh, I'm sorry, where are we? Which line are
What
on?
we were talking about,
You're on vocational or vocational transportation?
I was on tuition.
All right, I gotta get back to tuition.
Do you have it, guys?
What line is that?
No.
What fund?
Which page, Lisa?
I'm on page 224.
Vocational tuition.
Can't find that name.
Last year was, 2011, 2012, the actuals were 148,635. 148,635.
Okay, so that's, you could probably figure out how many kids were enrolled, right, basically? Did some math, kind of?
The actuals the year before that were actually much higher. They were 189.
And this is for that line, that 561?
Don't forget though too that we had some reimbursement fees.
561.
Well, how about we just get you the numbers?
No, I mean, it sounds like when you see the actuals, to me, it sounds like it makes more sense, no?
2011-12 is a strange year because the decision to eliminate funding at the state level was made halfway through the year. So the school district was presented with a challenge to come up with tuition monies to pay to Manchester, where we had originally assumed support from the state. So that's why I think you see a significant spike in the actual expenditures to 148,000, where 85 was budgeted originally. But to try to determine the actual enrollment using those numbers, it's best for us to just go back and give you those numbers rather than try to back into them.
Actually, the spike happens the year before, right, in 2010, 2011. Does this have anything to do with the mandatory age that you have to stay in high school till? Do you know? What's the deal with that law?
I think that might be a stretch, Elizabeth, I'm not sure.
Is it?
There is a law that came
Good
into
try, Elizabeth.
play like 4 years ago, Senate Bill 22.
Well, hasn't it fluctuated? You had to stay until you're 16, then you have to stay until
Get
you're
on the
18.
cut.
Yeah, it
and-
became law, you could not
So
go
is
back.
it still
Yeah,
18?
it's little, but.
So
To the best of my knowledge, it's still 18.
maybe that's,
And districts are responsible, but I think it's a stretch.
okay. All right, the spike is the year before is all. In fact, it was 189 in 2010, 2011.
Scott, go ahead.
You know, in our presentation, I know this is, you know, little, but the field trip lines, and I know that was put back in.
Yeah, I was
But,
gonna ask about that.
you know, I looked at the budget and at Mountain View, that was an administrative cut of $8,000 for field trips, and I think the only ones where it's really left in was, that I recall, were 3 instances, Bartlett and Maple, and then the high school one was a marine biology field
Out to
trip.
UNH out there.
Yeah, out to the seacoast where they, you know, and, but I think for the 2 elementary school ones, I mean, I would,
They
we
were like
haven't, we
2,000
haven't,
apiece or something.
I
like
don't know,
that.
what something like that. But I would just assume, let's let folks, pay for that on their own. We've been doing this for the last several years. And if you wanna leave a little bit in for.
Reinstate field trip at Bartlett was 2,000.
Yeah, I mean, if we wanna leave a little bit in for students who may have, you know, economic issues, I don't have any problems with that.
And it was 2850 at Mountain View. Maple Ave.
Mountain View was cut, though. If you look, there was an $8,000 reduction in their budget in that particular line. I could have sworn I just saw that.
Yeah, but they reinstated a field trip for $2,850.
That was for special needs transportation, I think.
Well, according to this.
And I'm just like, I was looking at the budget itself. I'll find it.
Yeah, it's on, looking for the transportation, Scott, for the field trips.
Oh, was that it? 'Cause I was looking at field trips itself, where it
Well,
was
and I do, I see your administration general reduction of $8,000,
right.
yeah.
So that was at Mountain View,
Yes.
but it wasn't done at the other schools, at the elementary schools.
They were reinstated at Mountain View was $2,850.
I saw an
We're
$8,000
looking at two
cut.
different lines. This is, transportation, this
What
is
page?
MDMS field trips, student transport. On my budget is 201. You are, slightly different,
Yeah, 202.
yeah, I was gonna say, it seemed to be a page off in one direction, cause I have my original budget.
Yeah, so I'm gonna look at field trip transportation
Mhm.
at $7,700. That was pretty much cut.
Yes, but if you look at the top, Scott, his current year's budget was $2,000.
Right.
And then it went to 4,850,
Okay.
and it's left at 4,850. So they added in $2,850, according to the sheets here.
Which,
Is that the
That's what I have in
reinstated?
You look at the total, look at the
2850,
bottom, I don't know, do you have bottom 202?
yeah.
It says total report is budgeted, and current year's budget is 2,000.
Yep.
And the end budget is
4850.
4,850.
Right.
So they put 4,850 back in at Mountain View.
So presumably that would be for special yearly trip busing for special needs students.
So it reflects an increase over this year, but not for the full amount that was requested.
Right. That's not in the special ed line though, Scott.
Hmm?
Not in the special ed line.
It isn't, but it does reference the LEAP program and, special field trip busing for special needs students, yearly field trips are taken.
Well, I wasn't even, I was just
Just looking at the cut.
I was just making a point that the regular field trip transportation was reduced at Mountain View. And it was not reduced at Maple Avenue or Bartlett School. And I know that was on our sheet that it was reinstated. I know it's not that huge of an amount, but,
$4,800
yeah.
for two schools. Diane, go ahead.
If I can share, the conversation surrounding, the elementary schools. Memory serves, we are on year number 3, if not 4, for not funding field
Right.
trips. And, what has happened on the elementary school level is that the parent groups have kicked in, significantly. I can speak for Maple specifically, that they had a nice reserve, the parent group did, that they were able to sustain the increase in budget. However, 3 years of doing this and aggressive fundraising, they're running out. The feedback from the parent groups, they're not able to do this, so that is an issue as well. I mean, one way or the other, the parents are paying for it. They're paying for it through fundraising, they're also paying for it through it on the other end, because you still pay. When your child goes on it, you still have to pay some money. But that is the spirit behind it, that field trips have been pared down as a result of the budget anyway. They've been very closely selected based on their GLEs, which is their grade level expectations. So it's not as though these are frivolous, they are considered to really contribute and enhance the educational experience of the children. And we do seem to be at a little bit of a crossroads, particularly on these levels, where the funding that has replaced the school district funding it's not going to be there much longer. Do you have anything to add?
But it's $2,000 at Maple, right, is what the request is for? Is that the amount?
$2,850.
How much?
$2,850,
Okay,
2,000
so
at Bartlett.
But just at Maple, $2,850, okay, and you've got almost 500 students. So you're looking at asking each student for an additional contribution of $5 per student to fund their field trips over the course of the year.
That is an average. Each field trip does cost different. If you think about like the Ruggles Mine field trip, that is a very expensive field trip as compared to the first graders going to the Capitol Center for the Arts.
Right.
$5 a piece, so it's a good average. You're absolutely right, it's a fair average. This reimbursement is still not, they're not asking to fund field trips 100%, it's still leaving additional monies
Do you
for the
know
parents to
how
provide.
much, I know on every one of those field trip forms it says, no one will be denied the opportunity to go due to lack of funds. And you can apply to the principal to get financial aid. Do you know how much money they give for that financial aid?
I personally do
school.
not, but
Do you know,
David, do you know
David?
how often that gets used? Or Jessica?
I don't think we've had it for the transportation part, we've had it for the, admission.
Mm-hmm. And how often does that happen for you? But you have, I mean, your parent group is pitching in as well
Yeah,
right now,
per student.
yeah.
I'm not sure how often that's.
Do you have the information?
Because that goes right through Suzanne.
Because I mean, personally, I think you need to leave enough money in this fund to cover the students who cannot afford that cost. But my personal preference would be to reduce it other than that baseline amount.
What would level funding that be? Anybody?
500, is that, it's not a lot.
I'll make a motion to level fund both the Bartlett and Maple Avenue field trip lines, transportation lines.
You know, Mountain View.
I was gonna
Mountain
say, what
View.
about Mountain View?
2850.
No, because I think that there was a rationale for that. So if you want to amend it, you can. I saw the
Hasn't been
rationale.
seconded yet anyway, we need a second.
I'll second it.
Hey, I'd like to come up with a dollar number, if that's okay.
What's the amount on it? They're 500. You can just rattle them off.
Well, I gotta look them up first.
Said it was 500.
I don't know.
I said 500, but I'm going off of memory.
Cancel.
I'm flipping pages.
Well, yep, I got one. Page 87 is for Bartlett, and that's at 500.
We're talking about transportation, student transportation for field trip?
Yep.
Okay, then at Maple Ave, it would be 800. Would be the base, is the current budget.
And that's on page 123.
So the motion is to reduce, you don't want, motion was for Bartlett and Maple Ave to level fund. Bartlett was 500 and Maple Ave was 800, would that be accurate?
Yep.
Any more discussion? Diane, you wanna speak up?
I think I did.
Okay. All in favor?
Almost got it.
Almost got her.
No, I
I
really
thought she
didn't
raised
mean
her
that.
hand.
Count it.
Freudian slip.
No, it wasn't. No, I would vote against anyway. I'm against, I'm opposed.
I'm going to forward you all something Joanne just forwarded me that she happened to have, which was the school positions 2009, 2010.
The school's what?
School
Positions.
positions,
Oh.
2009, 2010.
All right, wait, while we're on the field trip thing, can we go back and talk about Mountain View?
Yeah, what was it?
Yes, go right ahead.
I wanna know what the deal is with this. Scott said he thought there was a rationale to keep it where it was.
The write-up in the budget stated that it was for, it was more special ed related because you
Why wouldn't that be in the sped lines? I don't
I don't know,
understand
but-
what you're saying.
but I just read what I read. I mean, it was in, hold on.
Page 202.
What page you on?
202,
Page 202, I think it was 200 in yours.
200.
So for spreadsheet people, I have 2725, function 2725, under Mountain View. It's currently funded at this year's budget, it's funded at 2,000. It's an increase of 2,850 is being requested.
And I think like what Scott saw was within these teams, there are 3 students with wheelchairs, they need to have special buses with lifts to accommodate transportation. Bus can be high as an extra 500 per trip depending on where they go. We're budgeting 3 trips per team, 3 teams at $350 per bus. So trying to be conservative on that. I can't speak to the admin general reduction besides just trying to make do.
Can I ask Elizabeth what row number you're looking at?
I'm looking at row number 1122.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
So I guess I'm not clear. The 4850 is covering what?
Field trip student transport, an increase of $28.50 over last year.
But are we,
It's encompassing field trip transportation. There's no, I mean, I can't speak, Ray, are you privy to the admin cut on that?
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
that's,
it looks like they're taking all the regular ed out of it.
no, I think it was just a general reduction to that line, and there's now $4,850 to cover the 3 or 4 line items that are identified in there
As
as
needed.
compared to the original proposal.
I guess my,
The special needs strictly is for students in wheelchairs that do need lifts to get onto buses. We do need to provide transportation for those kids too. And if they can't, climb onto a regular education bus, there's a need to go out and hire a wheelchair van, provide transportation for those types of kids. So, still looking at extended school year programs, LEAP programs, and the special transportation needs. Now $4,850 to cover that, where the original request was $12,850.
I guess my question was, be it this year, it's budgeted at $2,000. Why is there an increase of $28.50? What drove the increase? We must have the same situation now as, and last year it was, prior year budget was 1,700. You bumped it by 300 to 2,000. Now you're bumping it, you're more than doubling it. Something's gotta be driving it.
I think, and again, I don't wanna speak for the school board, but, there's been a curtailment in field trips because of budget constraints and transportation cutbacks over the past 3 years now. And there was a desire to try to get that program reinstituted at each of the schools. And that's the reason why budgets were increased across the board.
Diane, could you
Yeah.
check into that a little bit, because I'm wondering, 3 kids, wheelchairs, possibly 3 new kids, I'm wondering if that isn't a line that New Boston or Dunbarton is contributing to.
And it absolutely could be, I mean, if it's one of their students, it would be a tuition. But we can't guarantee that in any,
Right.
Given time, depending on who the student is. But Ray put it very, very well, that there was an effort to try to reinstate these lines across the board for all schools.
Maybe Diane, you could help me with miscellaneous expenditures, why they went up so by $40,000, or actually $30,000.
On what school, Peter?
Oh, that's the high school, I'm sorry.
What page you on, Peter?
Well, the bottom line is on 230, I mean, but there's all kinds of,
You got a function number, Pete?
I'm looking at the bottom line, Guy, I don't know.
Okay.
It's just, Goffstown High School.
I'm looking at 3,500. What are you looking at, Peter? I'm sorry, you said,
On page 230,
yep, 230.
current year's budget is 142,000, and it's at 171,000. It's budgeted, or you're requesting.
That's for the total report?
Yep. No, for the high school.
For high school, right, for the total, that's your total report line, correct? That's not your miscellaneous expenditure.
No, it's,
So
okay, I'm
this
sorry.
is-
Yeah, you're right, it is total report. I
Yeah.
thought that was in the miscellaneous expenditures. All right. I'll research that one. Gotta be something there.
I mean, as far as the report goes, there increases, as far as some equipment goes. A lot of it is also, you're seeing in the fees. I think that's included in that report. Let me just check. This is gonna be your fees for, your officials, your timers, and those are all set by the state, so, I think you'll see that in that line, 339. Not all of it, of course, but it is spread throughout the report.
Guy there in 1420.
Thank you.
Elizabeth is your paraprofessional tonight, Kelly.
Right.
One-on-one aid.
Let me pull that out of your bag.
Problem is,
Wow.
I deleted some of the lines up at the top, so I'm off a few.
Well, they're on actually row 12 and 24.
Anything else? Anybody?
I kind of feel like we're hopping around all over the place.
We are kind of.
Can we like?
But that's why I was going through with this. I'm trying to go through,
Well, since David's here, can we do Bartlett?
sure, if you want.
And then hopefully we maybe get to Maple since Jessica's here?
Do we have more to do on Bartlett?
But if there's more to do.
I mean,
Can
I
we-
think we had questions on some stuff from Bartlett, right?
Right,
I'm
I mean,
gonna
'cause
go over
now
there
it's time to
tomorrow
do
at
it,
9
so we don't
o'clock.
have to come back.
Elizabeth, I think in Peter's defense, I mean, I'm not speaking for him, but if you look at these budgets, most of these lines are level funded.
Right. I'm not
So,
trying to
yeah.
criticize Peter.
No, I'm just saying, so I think what he did was he just looked at what are the areas that we could possibly influence and looked at new positions, because that's something that you would look at, but the things, and then we went over what we can control, what we can't control, the health insurance, retirement, and things like that. So, I mean, when I looked through these, there was very few things that were
But I assume at some point we are gonna look at school by school, we're gonna sit down and take a look at this and reflect a little bit, and so I'm just suggesting that since we have people here, let's.
If that's what you wanna do, that's why I asked you at the beginning, is there any special way we wanna do it? Nobody
Oh,
spoke up.
sorry.
So I went through
Sorry.
this and
That
said,
makes
this
sense,
is
yeah.
the way I wanted to approach it, because this is where the increases are.
Right.
Yeah, it's right there in black and white.
yeah.
You know, I didn't think we'd have to go line
Bigger
by line
picture,
or school
yeah.
by school. I picked out, I thought this was very helpful and went to that area. But Elizabeth, if you've got something you wanna
Okay.
hit David up with, let's do it right now.
Okay, David, I do have a question for you.
Where are you at now?
I'm in Bartlett. I am on the line for books and printed media and regular instruction.
Do you have a number, like, what's the,
It is line 641, function 1100, line 641. Books and printed media.
page 52, I
Can you
think.
give me a row number,
you.
please? Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
No problem.
And are you pointing
On your
out the
phone.
the 2796 to the 8351?
Yes, an increase of $5,555. Can we hear a little bit more about that?
You got it?
That was a request for, teachers, that it's been a long time since we've gotten classroom library books, read aloud, for just library books, and some of theirs are getting old, falling apart, outdated, so we put money in for that, plus part of that too is we have a reading incentive program that, based on the needs of Bartlett, every student and staff, family can get a book, like right now we're doing the Tales of Despero as a whole school filled out, and that would be purchasing a copy of that,
Okay.
book next year for everybody.
Okay,
So it's replenishing the classroom libraries that we haven't
right,
bought books in years.
okay.
And you said it's line 241, I'm sorry, 641?
642.
641.
Oh, yeah,
The
yeah.
641 says reading streets, reader, writer, notebooks. Unless I'm in the wrong section. Am I in the wrong section?
It's also to
Sorry.
replenish
Oh,
reading
classroom
streets.
libraries,
Do you see
okay.
it?
Why the increase, though?
The increase is for, to add to the classroom libraries, and that we allow that we do.
Something we
It's
haven't
allowable
funded.
as a reading incentive program that we have.
We haven't funded that in
Scott?
4 years.
I was just
sorry.
say, do you guys partner with like the public library? Because every year they discard like a lot of children's books, and there's donations that come in for the book sale, and there's like tables full of kids' books. Again, I don't know what's age appropriate, but I mean, I would think that if you guys had first crack at these things, even for, you know, a nominal donation to the library, they might just give them to you. But, I mean, what happens is parents, as, you know, your kids get older, you take the books and you give them to the library and they use them as a fundraiser, but that's a phenomenal way of replenishing your, you know, your libraries. It's books that parents like myself buy, and now the kids are older and you don't know what to do with them. So,
Yeah, I'm not even sure you need to go through the library. That seems to me like something that you could, you know, send a letter home to the parents saying, bring in your books that your kids have outgrown, and that was my same thought, actually, when I initially saw it. Like, but the reading incentive program is a little different. I mean, it's not as much of an incentive
No,
to
you're
get
buying-
somebody's used book. So.
no, and I get that. I'm just saying, but in terms of replenishing,
Right.
you know, libraries, if things are getting older, I mean,
So
sure
it looks
many
like
of us,
if
right?
I'm reading this spreadsheet correctly, it looks like that line is already funding from last year, the Reading Streets, Readers and Writers Notebooks, and the incentive program. So the increase was all for the classroom libraries.
You got shipping and handling of $216. New Hampshire, the Granite State, 60 of those at $475, and classroom libraries, 500 each for $5,500.
But New Hampshire, the Granite State is an actual, I mean, they use that in the classroom, that's
Yes.
part of their fourth
New
grade
Hampshire
program,
students, they
right?
use that.
They're learning, right, so that's a curriculum issue.
That'll learn you.
All right. Well, again, with apologies, but I'm gonna make a motion that we reduce that line by 5,500.
I'll second that.
Okay, the motion's to eliminate the classroom libraries at 500 each for $5,500. Diana, did you want to speak to that?
No,
Do you want to speak to it?
I
I
think
was
we are,
gonna say that would include the reading incentive program that we would be doing.
Well, that's why I was asking if
Yeah.
it doesn't look like it according to the spreadsheet.
according to this, it has 500 each just for the classroom libraries,
That would include the books that they would get
for the
Reading
incentive.
incentives? Okay, because
So
that was
that'll
not
be
my
like-
intention. My intention is not to cut the reading incentive program.
And that comes to about $1,000 for the school.
The reading incentive is $1,000? So I could reduce my motion by 1,000 to cut this line by 4,500.
And
I amend it.
55. Right? 4,555?
Yeah. Can I amend my motion, Peter?
Yeah, I'll let you do that.
The guy still has to second, has to decide if he still wants to
I'll second the amended motion.
All right. So we're gonna cut that line by $4,500. Is that what your motion is? You're leaving 1,000?
4,555.
4,555.
Reducing it to 1,000. I'm sorry.
No.
No,
no,
sorry,
no,
sorry,
it's not
sorry.
what
Yeah,
you're
you're
doing.
right. You're right, you're
Oh,
right.
you guys are
Sorry.
confusing me.
Yeah,
I'm
I was with them until then.
Yeah, no, sorry.
The line that reads classroom libraries at 500 each in our detail, you're reducing that line to $4,555.
By 4,500.
That's what I meant, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Right.
You're reducing it by
What do you guys come up with,
$4,500.
$55?
Shaking me up.
Everybody understand the motion?
Yes.
All in favor? Brian, you got. What are you looking at me like that? It's
Begrudgingly, but.
begrudgingly. Opposed? Abstaining? Mr. Fournier abstaining.
I had a question, Peter.
Go ahead,
On
Scott.
that sheet that Ray provided with the new positions, number 9,
Let's move
Move
Bartlett
Bartlett
reading
reading-
teacher to full-time position.
was that cut by the school board? Does it look like it was in here?
Yeah, it was. The full-time reading, the,
On page 50, 49, whatever, hold on. I thought I saw that somewhere.
It's number 9, position 9.
Yeah.
Board cut moving reading teacher to full-time by $4,000.
Does this number reflect that
Yeah,
$4,000?
we cut the
Yes,
half
they
the
did cut
reading
it.
position,
So that's been, so 9 is not, it's no longer there.
right,
Okay.
that half the reading position.
Well, wait a minute
No,
now.
no, no, you
Because
said,
it shows here it's a $34,000
right,
reduction,
But
but it
here
doesn't
it's
look
just
like
saying
it is.
it's a $4,000 reduction.
right.
It's just retire, I'm sorry. You gotta go to different pages.
Yeah, position 9 is a 34.
Yeah, it shows, 28,265, yep, it's been cut. Yep, on page 49, it shows
So we gotta cross that off to
Yep.
number 9.
number 9.
So the entire position is gone.
No,
No,
No, we just.
moving it to
increased
full-time
Okay.
was requested, but that the board cut that.
which was gonna cost the $34,659.
So
So
9's
it's
gone
off.
too?
Yeah, 9 is
Yeah.
gone off this
Yeah.
list. Right?
Right.
Oh, I keep missing this stuff.
we just found it ourselves.
Okay, thank you.
Peter, can David talk a little bit about that autism position,
I'd
that
be
new
more
one?
than happy with David talk.
About that
What?
new autism position, is that due to a program we're bringing in? Is it something to supplement? What,
It's a new program that's coming in, based on the students that are currently at Glen Lake and coming up,
okay,
the elementary levels. And I think over the next few years, they have about 13 students identified currently at Glen Lake that will be coming to the elementary schools within the next 2 years.
That's one of the required positions.
Yes.
now, on that one, it's Jessica, right?
Yes.
So if somebody was identified, if a child was identified with autism at Glen Lake School, but they lived in the Maple Avenue boundary, would they go to Maple, or would they go to the autism program at Bartlett?
That's the current situation. 2 of the students that are moving up from Glen Lake at next year, one is a Bartlett student, one is a Maple student.
Okay.
So they would both attend that program wherever it may be.
Okay.
David has it in his budget. We are still talking about space for that program, but, yeah.
So bottom line is, it's one program, we're not doing it in 2 different schools.
It's a decision that needs to be
Right.
made in terms of placement with the parents. That's something the parents need to agree to as well, but yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the parents cannot agree?
With placement, if the district can make a proposal to have a child placed in a particular program, if the parents disagree, they, I mean, it's a bigger picture than that, but yes, parents.
But they can't say, I want the program, but I want it at Maple.
No.
Okay, all right.
David, how many, in the current year to next year, are there any increases in regular teaching positions at your school?
No.
And have you had any of your long-term teachers retire there or expecting them next year?
Next year, nothing definite.
Anything else, Liz? No, I know you were staring at
Just to
that.
say that, David, I will personally call my children's books and bring you some books for your classroom library, okay?
Okay.
I'll do do the same, Elizabeth.
Okay, good.
And I, you know,
Maybe
and
we
I would
can put
even
it on
volunteer at the
Facebook.
book fair
Get
though,
some.
to go through and get the ones, not the book fair, but
The
the
library?
library.
Write that down, Fallen. School volun-
I'll call Diane
Oh, it's
tomorrow.
on tape,
Yeah.
never mind.
There's a lot of them.
It's 9:30, you wanna hit another school? Let's hit,
Maple?
Maple Ave, well.
He's talking about after. Yeah,
Put that same line.
pretty much. No,
You know, in terms of new positions there was this sped to increase to full-time, right? That's the only,
I know it's
Right?
They were denied that by the school board.
they were,
Yeah, the school board said no,
so that's another one that was,
the principal requested if it was turned down.
I'm sorry, what are
Which
you
I
talking
still
about?
don't really
The-
understand.
Half-time sped position
The
at Maple
half-time
Ave.
sped, yeah.
okay, so that's another one then.
That was number 11, I
Yeah, but we
think.
already discussed that, Scott. I thought.
So number 11 has now gone as well.
6, 9, 11,
Okay.
15, and 16 are gone.
Right, okay.
Peter,
Go ahead.
can we look at that same line at Maple that we looked at last time, books and printed media under regular instruction? It's an increase of 57.97. Sorry.
I'll be honest and say I might not be the best person, and whatever questions you have, I'll bring back to Suzanne, but.
Okay. It looks like on our budget, it says, I don't see exactly
91,
that
no,
amount
it's
or anything, but it says regular, okay, Reading Streets Readers and Writers Notebooks, again. Grades 1 through 4 replacement anthologies, that's for Reading Streets?
Those are the, yep.
Diane, what page are we on?
91.
Thank you.
91.
Independent reading classroom books. That's classroom in the library, that's the same thing. Okay, I'll split my books between you guys. And student magazines, nonfiction, but that's not in the library, those are classrooms?
I believe, let me
You'll
ask
check?
Susan for sure, I believe it's, yeah, I believe so.
They're what, I'm sorry?
By Scholastic News.
The scholastics.
Okay, and but those are in the classroom, not in the library?
Right.
Okay,
Yeah, library you would see under a different,
right, that's what I was thinking, it's under
Section.
media services,
Can you give me
right?
the line number?
641.
641 under regular instruction. Okay, then I move that we reduce that line by 3,000, which is the amount, this is the same thing we just did at Bartlett, which was to buy books for classroom libraries.
Second.
It's not categorized the same way in this one as it was in there. Which, is that the independent reading classroom books?
Yeah.
Okay. Diane, do you want to speak to that?
No, it's the same as with Bartlett. It's been several years now since this line was funded in the district budget. And it was an effort to try to increase support to the teachers as far as having them revitalize their classroom library collections.
I actually have a further, I'm sorry, I'm not
Go
gonna
right
finish
ahead.
my motion, but I have a further question. That, what was that thing called? Literacy place? Remember that, like, closet?
It still exists.
I thought it wasn't gonna be used anymore with Reading Street. Somebody told me that, because I used to volunteer in there.
Well, children still read independently, and there is a place in the Reading Street programs for children to do independent reading. So I know sometimes teachers will pull multiple copies of books for
Okay.
that, or the specialist in the building, you may use those multiple copies to supplement instruction depending on where the child's levels are as well.
Okay, so are we still buying books for Literacy Place? Or are we just using the
I
books
don't
that are
believe so, the books that
No,
Okay.
I don't think we are.
Okay, okay.
Suzanne that question, so double check.
No, it's always good to fact check, but I'm 99%
Okay, there's a
positive.
motion on the floor to reduce at the Maple Ave, independent reading classroom books for $3,000, made by Elizabeth, seconded by Scott. All in favor? Unanimous. No, not unanimous. Opposed? Diane, can you tell me what the technical program non-capital software means? I know
Where
it
are
says
you?
Deluxe Online.
51.
It's right below 651.
All right, what is eSuite? It's less than the alternative, Jessica, but the eSuite, that's what this software is.
That's it
Math.
for
It's for your
online
math.
program.
It's a what?
It's called, the software is eSuite, and it's for math. And my notes have that it is less than the alternative, but it is an online math program.
How's that used?
It's used both at home and school. It corresponds with the everyday math program, so it has the math games that the children can practice at home. It has the textbook, student reference book, where they can access it at home. It actually reads it at home. It keeps, based on the Common Core, it has assessments that you could build on it. So it's the whole electronic module that goes in the math program.
This is something new.
Bartlett has had it for a few years, and Maple has it, this is the second year versus next year.
'Cause it's not budgeted the prior year or current year.
Are you seeing it shift, Ray, do you remember? I know we've
This is-
continued to make efforts to switch lines to be more exact with our budgeting.
This is one of those
This
cases.
is one of those.
Trying to align properly along the costs.
So where'd that 3,000 come from?
I don't have a line number for where it came from, Peter.
Probably came from the 642 line right above it, electronic information.
Because that line's up now, so if you reduce that by, well,
No, you're looking at a different line.
642, he just said 642.
42.
642,
Two is up.
I have a zero. But you're looking at the 16
Oh, I'm looking at the-
total books and
okay, yeah.
information. You're looking
But
at the
it doesn't,
total.
but what I'm saying, it doesn't show anything on those either, right?
It doesn't.
Because what I'm looking for, if it was taken from another line, that line should be reduced by a certain amount of money.
Let me get you the answer, Peter.
Great. Anything else? Elizabeth?
Under principal services, there's a significant increase in dues and fees, as well as a function below it, other support.
What line are you on?
What row are you
I'm on
on?
page 116 on paper. On the computer, I'm on line 669, row number 669.
Yeah, because I think last year we cut, wasn't there cuts in all the dues?
We did cut all the dues
Yeah.
at all the schools, we cut all the dues.
And that is a reinstatement
And
of
that
that.
is a reinstatement, so. My question is, Diane, and maybe Jessica knows this, is membership in this organization required? The New Hampshire Association of School Principals.
It is not required, but it is considered beneficial to be part of it.
Okay. What?
What do you got,
So it
David?
includes things like liability insurance and things like that.
Oh, it does?
What else does it do for you? Do you get together and have a meeting, exchange information, or?
It all depends on how you use it.
How do you use it?
I mean, you can attend meetings, there's information, you can get there's, publications through them.
Professional development,
Yeah.
liability.
Well, you're provided liability insurance through I mean, what type of liability do you get? I'm just,
I think in case you're ever
Sued.
sued for some reason.
Right.
They have lawyers' services and things like that that they provide.
but that would be
It'd
more
surplus.
so,
It would be additional.
Yeah.
right, but it would be more so, I mean, the district insures you for your actions as a principal. I guess this would be something outside of that, or?
And I think the primary benefits that we're talking about are more to do with being part of the professional
Professional
association,
development.
the professional development piece, and the publications, the education, the
Right, and
networking.
and this has come up year after year after year. I guess, the big question is that, is this something where both the principal and the assistant principal need to have a membership, or is it something where one of you has it and then you're just, here's the magazine, or here's some, how does that work? It's not cheap. I mean, it's a lot of money.
Well, and for the principal, it looks like there's two separate. One's probably a National Association of School Principals, and the other one is the New Hampshire Association of School Principals.
Well, I'm gonna ask the $64,000 question. Did either of you pay the dues on your own,
116.
since it wasn't paid for by the district?
I can't answer that question.
Okay.
I haven't.
You haven't, okay.
I can't answer for Suzanne, but I can find out.
Okay. No, I'm just saying, is there so much value in it then that you would have paid for it out of pocket? I guess that was,
Did you
'Cause,
pay
I mean,
for
I-
it for yourself, Jessica?
I didn't.
mean,
Because your dues are in here, so.
I have a couple of professional, things
take
of mine
advantage
that
of
I
it?
don't
Yes.
do it anymore. It's too expensive. You get anything out of it.
Could you explain the benefit as you see it, Jessica? from
Sure,
your own experience?
Well, actually, I just read an article this week on supervision and evaluation and how to better support my staff. So, and I know Suzanne also reads her articles because she shares them, the ones that she gets from the National Association with me. So I think it has lots of benefits in terms of us being leaders and supporting our staff. It's the latest and greatest in what's out there. What's happening with the Common Core Standards. There was an article recently, a magazine that came out on best practices in reading. So there's lots of, certainly there's other ways for access, but this is one way. And it also gives us access to other districts and other, communication without other people outside.
So the point I would think I'm getting now is you are participating in this program now. Even though there was cut from the budget committee, there was cut from the budget last year.
So Suzanne shares a lot with me, so I don't know where.
She may have
didn't tell
paid the
me that
dues
she
herself.
paid for
Who
them,
knows?
so-
Well, Dave, did you pay for it? Did your budget, did you pay for it out of your pot?
No, I haven't.
So we don't know about Suzanne. She
I
may
can
have.
find out.
Yeah.
I can find out.
They bought it anyway, they just took it out of a different line, that's all.
Not necessarily.
No, she might have paid for it out of her own pocket.
I don't
Yeah.
know that. I
No.
don't know that.
Yeah.
I can find it.
Go ahead.
I think in the current budgets, the principals were the only ones who had paid memberships, all of the others were cut. Assistants, curriculum coordinators, and the like.
So the school board made a decision
I
to,
don't think so.
I don't think the principals had
Current
it either.
budget
Right.
says $200, which would not pay the
That's
dues.
just, that's just the
the
DI.
destination.
Destination
Yeah.
Imagination fee.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the whole thing got
The
cut,
whole thing.
yeah.
Well, come back to that one, I guess.
And then right below it is a line, function 2490, that also says dues and fees, and it's an increase of $1,364.
I think that's the field trip admission.
Yeah, that's field trip admissions.
Okay. So, if we cut the transportation, then it makes sense to me to also cut that this is part of the field trips and should also be level funded.
Yep, yep.
So let me make that motion for Maple Ave and Bartlett.
for Maple Ave, so you're talking, you're gonna just leave the 200 in there?
No, we're on a
It's
different
500.
line.
What line number?
We're on, you're on.
Jumping around here.
Function 2490, line 811, and it's row
Oh, right here.
673 in Excel.
Oh, it's in there, okay.
So it's a level funded at
1364, you wanna cut $1,364?
Yes.
This is
Se-
for
second.
field trip admissions. And then to do the same at Bartlett. Or do you want me to do that in a separate motion?
Same motion.
We can do the same motion, we just gotta go back and find out
To
what it
level
is.
fund both of them.
That's the dues and fees?
Yeah, I'm just saying it's for field trip.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't say that, but that's what that is.
I guess that's why I'm confused.
So on Bartlett, it is, I don't know what page number.
Okay, then.
The row number is 458.
It says admin fees and fees.
And wait a minute, that line went down at Bartlett.
I don't have that.
You don't have that.
You have a decrease in that line.
Maybe I'm not in the right
I think
page.
we went from going for a class to
Ah.
what
There you go.
does
Don't
for
tell me.
fees
Next
to
page.
Jesus
level
Christ.
Reading the para.
Yeah, I think so.
using the same way that Maple
Okay.
uses theirs.
Okay, so then there would be no adjacent motion to it for Bartlett because they're already,
Okay.
yeah.
So your motion is to cut Maple Ave by $1,364. The line we're looking at is 811, which is others, support Maple dues and fees. I'm assuming that's what the SUPP means.
Yes, but I'm still, wait a minute, I'm still muddling through this Bartlett thing, because now we would be leaving in Bartlett's line $800, and they've got less than half the students.
It's currently budgeted at 200.
No,
Oh, wait a minute.
it's currently budgeted
Right,
at
816.
816.
A little confusion there, huh?
So, in my opinion, it seems like that line should have, I think we should do some two separate motions, Peter. Can we just do Maple Ave, and then we'll come back and do Bartlett?
Okay, so the motion,
Level fund Maple Ave.
motion on the floor is to reduce line 811 by $1,364.
Who seconded that?
Me.
Seconded by Scott. Any more discussion? Go ahead, Diane.
Just want to reiterate that these field trips do provide valuable experience. They are well thought out. There's something that the budget has gone without for several years now, and it has been, the burden has been shouldered by parents thus far. This has been an effort to try to reinstate these programs. into our school district. And I think there's benefit to it. We're talking about $2 a child.
Go ahead, Elizabeth, I'm sorry.
That's all right, you can tell me. As a parent, I would rather pay for this out of pocket, and I gotta tell you, it kind of annoys me to write a check for $2.
But you're not writing a check for $2.
Yeah, I am.
You're writing a check for $2.
Yeah, for like didn't they go to the OWL Center or something? Something in the first grade, I wrote a check
No,
for $2.
because they're like going the little things. I mean, but we're
Well, I
talking
would rather write a check
18,
for $10.
13, 10, send in the cash.
I think parents should,
Everybody likes a good one.
parents should pay for, with the proviso that we have left some money in here to cover students who financial hardship could not afford to otherwise go. That's my personal opinion. I do think the field trips are valuable, and I think the students should go on them, I just think the parents should pay for them.
Anybody else? Do you wanna say something? You're Maple Ave we're talking about here. You're all set? Okay. All in favor of the motion to cut $1,364 out of line 811? Signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Motion passes. Now, did you want to go back to Bartlett, or do you not sure what's going on there?
Well, I wanna go back and look at it again.
Okay.
I mean, it's a very small amount of money, but I feel like we need to be,
Fair?
yeah.
What page are you on, Elizabeth?
I don't know what page I'm on, cause I'm using the.
Well, if Maple Avenue is at $500 and there's 500 students there, and if Bartlett has 200 and something, then why don't you just do it maybe in that respect?
It used to be 200 anyways.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we do,
200.
Which line? I want to see the line.
alright, I'm looking for you.
Bartlett, it's function 2490, 811. I don't know what page, but
What account number? Throw me a phone here.
2490, function 2490.
It's on page 54.
Thank you.
I don't see anything on that line.
You.
811,
Guys,
that's,
what does yours say?
811 dues and fees at 0.
No, what does it say, what does it say for numbers?
The spreadsheet says it's
So you have
budgeted
0.
at $800.
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, yeah.
Okay, nothing against Maple, but they're two different schools, and, and I think, we have about 200 students, I think it's 200 exactly right now. Our PTA is a lot smaller, so they don't have the funding of Maple's PTA to support it.
And more students
out
on
of our
free and
200
reduced.
students, we have over 60 students that are on free and reduced
Yeah.
lunch. So there is a difference in the population of the Bartlett students compared to the Maple students. So I think a lot of the Bartlett students to come up with $10 for a field trip isn't easy. And, so just to think about that too, when you cut Bartlett's field trips, I mean, it's a different group of people.
Good statement.
I would concur with David on that, although I think Maple is every bit worthy of support as Bartlett, but we do have different populations, there is no question. Something we should
I'm a
consider.
little confused because I don't see anything on 811.
I know, that's what I'm.
I don't either.
Ray, can you help me out?
On what, 811?
811 Bartlett is a 0.
No, it has 800.
No, look at, you're in the wrong function. Function 2490 is where you want to be.
Okay, here we
Page
go.
87.
I'm withdrawing my
I know,
second.
don't look at me.
Joanne, you got
There's a
that?
motion. You haven't made a motion.
You just made a motion.
You made it and I seconded it and I'm now withdrawing.
I didn't make a motion on Bartlett. I said, let's look at it.
Yeah, she has, there's no motion
You
on the
guys
floor,
were
is there?
talking about
No.
transportation.
No, there's
Guy,
no
you're
motion
talking
on
about
the floor.
transportation.
No, other sports service, support, whatever that says. 811 dues and fees.
That's true.
It's currently 816, the new proposed is $16 less.
So it's page 78. Is that what you're talking about? Oh my God. No, that's not it either.
No, say, look on page what,
87,
80?
dyslexic.
80.
It is, page 80.
Page
87, it's gone up $2,000.
No,
What do you mean, no?
No,
not the line she's talking about.
it has gone down $16.
It's gone down $16.
Where is it? What page is it on?
Page
Are you on page 80?
Yeah.
80, okay.
Yeah.
Line 811.
Oh, now I see the function guy was talking about.
Okay.
Too many numbers.
What do you say?
I'm good. I'm not
Times
thinking
two is $400, so Scott.
Huh?
If it's $2 per
See what you
person,
mean.
how many students do they have there?
I think the issue that David made was that the composition of or the demographics of the Bartlett School are completely different than they are of Maple. And when you saw Stacy's presentation, that the percentage of students on free and reduced, so you,
Right,
in terms of the capacity to pay for these things, and also students or parents who may ask for assistance is far greater
Yeah.
at one school than the other, so.
I would concur.
And I think that's a true statement, so sounds reasonable.
So we've decided to do nothing with that.
I'm not doing anything.
That's fine. Okay, we're still on,
Just on Maple.
Maple.
Nice, Ray, there seems to be throughout Maple like a sprinkling of teacher retirement. It looks like guidance services, teacher retirement's listed at $1,500. Then there's a little bit more under special ed, there's 8,000. There's some more under,
What
We're
specifically,
just kind of like looking at the retirement costs in general.
yeah,
look at
where are
the
you going?
increase on retirement. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
figure it out. I mean, there's not that many, there's like some in,
Right, the overall budget has increased to $453,000 because of the state downshifting its contributions to retirement.
oh, all right, I'm
Right.
sorry. Okay.
10 o'clock.
I'm ready anytime.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Beat me to it.
All in favor?
Aye.
The only problem is I wanted to
So,
schedule to talk about the next meeting, but okay.
Oh.
Are
What
we
are we
gonna
doing
go and
next meeting?
continue with the school, or are we gonna bring the town in on Thursday?
Whatever you want.
Well, it's not what I want, it's what the committee wants.